6:30, we will call. You ready, John?
Yeah, I'm ready. Yeah.
All right, 6:31, we will call the July 9th Planning Commission meeting to order. First order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, next up we have roll call and swearing in of Commissioners Darren, Brownen, and Jeff Sargent. Roll call, everyone's present. Swearing in.
Swearing in. So, Commissioners Sargent and Brownen, if I could have you stand up. Sure you remembered the oath, or memorized it. Okay. You raise your right hand, please. I. Okay, state your name.
Darren Brownen, Jeff Sargent.
Do solemnly swear or affirm
Do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Minnesota,
and the Constitution of the State of Minnesota,
and that I will discharge faithfully
and that I will discharge
the
faithfully
duties of the office of the City of Dayton
the duties of the office for the City of Dayton
as a planning commission
as a planning commissioner
in the counties of Hennepin and Wright,
in the counties of Hennepin and
the
Wright,
State of Minnesota,
the State of Minnesota,
according to law,
according to law,
and to the best of my judgment and ability.
and the best of my judgment and ability.
Thank you.
Thank you. We got roll of Planning Commission on the agenda. Those who want to read it. Next up is approval of agenda. Any corrections or changes, Chad?
No.
Just noted that we received a number of public comments that were not included in the packet.
Correct.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Next item is consent agenda. The only item on the consent agenda is Planning Commission minutes from June 4th.
I will move to approve the Plan Commission minutes from June 4th.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the Planning Commission minutes from June 4th. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Open forum, public comments for 3 minutes for non-agenda items. Anyone here for non-agenda items?
Oh.
Good evening, Eric Seppold, 11534 Rayburn Trail. Good evening, Commissioners. I've heard from more than one source Sundance is planning to install lights on the driving range. I do not know the validity of these claims. The Sundance property is part of a PUD agreement listing the golf course as a public benefit. With PUD zoning, classification comes with specific guidelines on development to ensure improved design that is harmonious with the surrounding development. A lighting driving range was not included in the original PUD, and drafted plans do not even show a driving range or the same hole configuration as has been carried out. This would represent a significant change in the operational standard expected when drafting the PUD, namely extending outdoor entertainment beyond dusk. It seems the PUD amendment may be appropriately applicable for such a scenario. I am requesting Commission be attentive to this, discuss if necessary, and to coordinate with council and staff to ensure handling of such plans or permit requests comply with City Code and legal standards. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else here for open forum? All right. Moving on, we will have council update.
Okay, so for June 9th, we had a work session on the Southwest Water System. Maple Grove, we we think is looking at getting us off of their system. And we had a very high-level look at what that's going to cost us to bring in what we would need to get that system up and going, and it's not pretty. It's in the, I think roughly 50 million is what we're looking at, but anyways. City audit, there was nothing outstanding there. We get, every year we get a finding that we don't have enough people on staff, and that's normal for a city this size. There's not enough independence. Historic Water Village, there was a detailed analysis of what was needed for water and sewer. Looks like sewer came back in actually pretty good shape. We might need 2 lift stations when the full build out of the old village occurs. Do you remember, Jason, what that meant in houses?
Didn't really equate it to houses, just usage based on land use.
Area, okay. And then for water, what's really needed is a water tower, and there's more information on that coming. There was an approval to get the sewer and water plans updated. We talked about the water tower in the old village, where it would go. It looks like it's going to end up just on the backside of the ballpark, so just behind the stands. We approved a communication policy. It was a combination of social media policy and the current communications policy. We did approve an RFP to go out for engineering for the city. We started work on a budget. It's looking like capacity that we're given is going to let us keep the current tax rate. There's a lot of nuances there we haven't really dug into, but that's the gist of it. And then, yeah, 23rd. Same thing, we had a budget work session on the budget. It was just a few more details around the budget. Diamond Lake Association came in and gave a presentation that they're requesting. Normally we give them about 15, looks like 15K a year. They're requesting a little bit more because they have some other activities that they want to look at. They're also looking at possibly stocking the lake. We made a decision on the northwest tower to plant it, like I said, behind the ballpark. There was a park facilities study that we looked at a couple months ago. We did not approve it. The park commission came in and explained kind of a little bit more about what they want. So we did approve it. So there's going to be a well, I think the bulk of it's going to be what kind of facilities we need once we're built out. Commission appointments, you guys and a park member, congratulations. Fernbrook Lane study, that was to ballpark how much money we would need and how much land in the area of the intersections we would need. So that's for 117th, 114th, and Rush Creek. It's going to be a good chunk of money, about 10 million it looks like, to do them all. And then we still need the property, which we don't have currently. DCM Farms, that was the agenda item that you guys had seen in the previous commission meeting. It was approved. Both were actually approved. There was some adjustments made to the DA, but adjusting property lines was approved. Ordinance, the city garage ordinance, again, it was what you guys had seen. We approved the removal of the conflicting spot in the parking section. We approved plans and specs for the road that is going to be on the southwest area of the Dayton interchange. So that's the one that's been kind of in the midst of a conflict, but it looks like that's getting cleared up. So that was approved. There was a study approved for a public facilities assessment, what we'll need over the next 5 to 10 years. And then, the rental agreement on the house that the city owns on North Diamond. I think it's the same renter, but it was just an approval of the agreement, and that was it. Any questions?
Any questions for?
I just have one comment dealing with the water issue.
Which?
I just saw earlier today that Maple Grove has a very sophisticated, I don't know if you want to call it a commercial or infomercial or whatever, on Facebook page dealing with water and the possibility of them going to all softened
Yep.
water. And their projection, if I remember right, was $25 to $30 a month increase for residents, for them.
I would be
I know that-
surprised if it's that little, but,
Well, that's what they're saying.
yeah.
And that's all I can, I just wanted, if people wanted to be, to go out there and get informed on that, it's out there. You can go out there and look at it.
I think the latest number we heard was, and this kind of drove a lot of it, was originally they thought it would be a 4X on the water bill. I think since then, they've backed down to 2.5.
2.5.
2.5. So, yeah, $25 a month is, I gotta believe it's gonna be a lot more than that. But given the 2.5. So, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, they didn't give any specifics on how they developed that. That's why I thought I'd mention that, because that was different than what I'd heard the council talking about for cost-wise before, so.
Yeah. I don't know what they're using to base that stuff on. I don't even know. I think they're not even talking about the approval on the soft water until sometime next year, I believe.
Yeah, I think the survey that they've got out there is asking for, for feedback from residents on, do they want all the water in the city softened or don't they?
Yeah.
And they're telling them that if they do, that this is what the potential costs could be.
Yeah.
With Maple Grove potentially taking us off their water, what's the timing on that?
I think we'd have to be done by 2036.
Our current agreement, they have to honor until 2036.
Got it. So that $50 million is a today number, if we had to do it today, but we have 10 years to kind of figure it out.
I think the planning is 4.5 years or something like that.
Yeah, I think if they move forward with everything, it would be online 2032 likely.
Okay.
So
With that number too, were we planning excess capacity in that number? For as far as households compared to what there are today and what,
for if we build our own system
Yeah.
out, yes, certainly. Yeah, we would target probably at least a 8 to 10 year growth with
in
the
that
initial
initial
build.
$50 million number?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Speaking of growth, Dennis, I don't know if you know the answer, but like when you do the facility studies, are you guys using any particular growth numbers for modeling it?
I think we're using, didn't that come up? I don't remember now, but I know the Met Council numbers we wouldn't use because they're just wrong.
We think we'll grow faster than the Met Council does.
Right.
I believe, and Dennis, you'll have to correct me, so I believe we went out for RFP for the facilities study, but I don't know if there's any numbers, I guess.
I'll just reiterate then to make sure you guys give them some numbers, because the last time we've done this stuff, they go back to our comp plan and then the results don't necessarily indicate
Yeah.
what's going to be useful to make a decision.
I thought that topic did come up, and I don't remember exactly what the answer was, but obviously, yeah, the Met Council numbers are wrong. We we would give them targeting numbers.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments, discussion? All right, moving on to 8A. Public hearing for ordinance 26XX, amending city code 100164.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is a public hearing for an ordinance amendment to correct I'm going to call it an error and possibly a typo, which kind of sounds like the same. Within the zoning code, we have a table of uses that list every use as either permitted or an accessory permitted or conditional use permit or not allowed. So it's the first letter of each word. As it applies to the public recreational district for accessory buildings, we have an F. And so the question has been for the past 30 years or so is what is the intent of F? Is it a P? Is it a C? We don't know. So the intent of this ordinance is to correct it. There should be some discussions of what is the intent in the code, whether it be whether accessory buildings be a permitted use or versus a conditional use. In some of the language related to the public recreational district, the last sentence here says that accessory uses are to be contained wholly within a lawfully erected principal building except designated accessory structures approved as a conditional use, which would allude that accessory buildings are intended to be a conditional use permit. So question, what is an accessory building? It is anywhere from a small shed to a large building that's not the main building on the property or on the use. The public recreational district includes Elm Creek Park Reserve, city parks, Dayton Elementary School, DNR land, as well as the Sundance and Daytona Golf Course. So, you think of this campus, City Hall would be the primary building, and then we have an accessory, detached garage that would be the accessory building. So the question here really is, what is the intent of the code? Does the code intend that every accessory building require a conditional use permit? And then we have some examples of accessory buildings within the PR district. So we have a planned band shelter, we have a picnic pavilion at one of the parks, the garage behind City Hall, and then as well as the proposed maintenance building for Sundance Green. So again, with this ordinance amendment, I'm looking for some direction or recommendation from the commission as far as what is the intent of how accessory buildings are permitted in public recreational district. Should they be permitted uses or conditional uses?
I was trying to look through the code, John, and I couldn't find it, and I apologize for not giving you a heads up on this, but do we know if there's building size restrictions within the district we're dealing with?
I've not
for
found,
accessory structures.
I'm going to say I have not found any, although I'm going to say this it's very rare that we work with this district at all, so this is not something that I'm very familiar with. The language on the last sentence I've never noticed before.
Any other questions for staff at this time?
No questions. How does this affect any of the issues that we're currently looking at if we change this?
It's procedurally. So if accessory buildings require a conditional use permit, for Sundance Greens, for example, it would require a conditional use permit for any accessory building, including the maintenance building. Likewise, it would require the city to apply for conditional use permits for our band shell, our band shell. Same way with any picnic pavilion that we're going to build at any of the city parks. So with a conditional use permit, it is a permitted use with conditions. And so the thing to think about is, what are reasonable conditions that are associated with any accessory building that would be proposed in the public recreational district? And does that provide a public benefit to it? So if we were going to, the item before us tonight is the golf course, but more realistically, like we build a lot of things in public parks. What kind of conditions would be associated with anything that would be built within the park?
So I guess let me ask it this way. In the case of the park, accessory uses are to be contained whole,
Oh, sorry.
or, I guess, if we go back to, if you go back an example, you have the one more. You had, as it applies to Sundance, its primary use is a golf course, that's the primary building, but then the maintenance building is accessory.
The course really isn't a building, it's part of the
Right.
issue. And the same issue with the building, with the parks, I mean.
And that's where I was going with this. Is this really an accessory structure when we talk about a park or a, I get it when we talk of city building.
Or if you said it was accessory to the Sundance bowling alley.
And the golf course
clubhouse,
operations, the
right.
clubhouse, right? So maybe that's the distinction there, but when we talk about parks, that's where I have a little bit of a hang up with.
Yeah, there's no
calling it an
principal building.
accessory.
Yeah.
There might be a principal building on the park, but if there isn't,
Yep.
What do you call the dugouts? Some nuances there with how we're applying it maybe. And maybe it's just the city parks is the only one that really applies to. Because the rest of them, the school, the park reserve, and the golf courses all have primary buildings.
our code could use cleaning up in general, how it's
Yeah.
mixing uses and structures, because it's two separate concepts, or can be.
Staff's recommendation is to strike the last sentence that's highlighted in yellow, and then to have accessory buildings to be a permitted use.
Is this a public hearing?
It is. This is a public hearing because we are amending the ordinance. So at 6:54, I will open the public hearing on this item. If there's anyone here on this item.
Hello again, Eric Sepult, 11534 Brayburn Trail. So I believe I am the reference public review that identified this error. So I actually drew attention to this about a year ago when Hayden was still city planner. His assumption was it was intended to be A for accessory. My interpretation was it should be a C for conditional use. The table of uses lists permitted uses in the PR district. Most are operational uses other than accessory buildings as the lone structural use. My interpretation of the language in the reference section of code reads as there are three categories of uses. Item 1, permitted uses, or P. Item 2, accessory uses, or A. And item 3, conditional uses, or C. I believe item 2 phrasing provides context for accessory uses not contained within the principal building and instead in accessory buildings, and that is that those buildings would require a CUP. Subdivision 3, table of uses specifically lists accessory buildings again, as I believe to be coded C. That's 2 references to accessory buildings requiring a CUP. I don't believe this is coincidental and rather intentional. This would be consistent with the level of restriction in this section of code, listing nearly every use as not permitted. Changing the letter code to the least restrictive designation, permitted, jeopardizes the protections established for the PR district when the ordinance was adopted. Within the designation of C, an accessory building could still be allowed, but subject to the level of review intended. Properties within Dayton zoned as PR tend to be large tracts of land, meaning they could be surrounded by various zoning district types and uses. Using the example provided, think of a band shell next to homes or a nursing home rather than next to a river. Therefore, the layer of protection provided by the CUP to ensure compatibility with surrounding properties is needed, especially considering the PR district has limited guidance on building standards to begin with, as just discussed. I propose to this commission to recommend denial of the ordinance amendment as presented and to instead motion for a correction to C indicating conditional use permit. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else here to speak on this item?
Mike Peterson, 11536 Brayburn Trail. I agree with Eric on that presentation that we should deny it and go for. I think as an individual that has a severe autism child and you're considering an accessory building and stuff like that, we have to consider the items that relate to those with disabilities and access and things that also, just like he was mentioning nursing home, I'm trying to relate to people with disabilities and the ability to have something close by. We really need to be careful what we put next to things because of the sensory, all the other things that happen. So I guess that's my vantage point, is I respect to deny it as well and go with what Eric is saying. So, thank you.
Anyone else here for this item?
Hi, Tom Dean, 11261 from Brook Lane. I think maybe just to clear from my understanding, a CUP doesn't mean that the building can't be built. It's just there's conditions for it, right?
Correct.
And I'm just curious if everybody was understanding of that. And I think everybody, I'll leave it up to you guys. That's why you're up there, right? But I would agree there are conditions that you just don't want anybody, leave it, for instance, as me to build the building and just have no restrictions to it. Currently, right, we have a maintenance building that wasn't worth a dime to put in, and I've been wanting to fix it or waiting to this last phase to replace it because it leaks to everything. But it's not how we're going to put a new building up, right? And if our new building is planned to keep everything inside, so I would, I think as we get up further and talk about this, I'll cover that delay. But I do think, just looking at the good of the city, right? This instance here is maybe different than a park pavilion. So.
Thank you.
Hi, James Warren, 11525 Poyers Lane. I agree with everybody. I think this is more than likely something we want to consider as a conditional use. I think if you look at when this was adopted, I know you've all said, hey, we can't figure out if it was a typo or not. I would say that F is right next to C on that keyboard. Is kind of bringing it up like that could be the typo, and it really was the fact that they said it's not that we don't want to not allow this, but we want to be able to review this, and we think it should be a conditional use. If that's the way we've been operating, I feel we should stay the course. It gives, again, the council and the city a chance to weigh in on that, make sure the development's happening the way we want versus just letting it go permitted, and it'll still end up before us, but there's a lot less requirements. So it allows, I believe, the conditional use, the city, the opportunity to weigh in and work with the developer at that point in time. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, seeing no one else, we will close the public hearing at 7 o'clock and deliberate.
John, one question, just because I know that we're dealing with this because there is a next agenda item, but there's a PUD on the golf course too, so this decision isn't as much about this maintenance building to begin with, because the PUD can govern that too a little bit, correct?
Yes.
So I just wanted to say that, so when people are up here debating and making their decision, I don't think it's in the, it doesn't have to be in the context of the maintenance shed. We should be debating this in the context of what we think is best for the long term.
Well, we are talking about a fairly specified area within the city that this is even applicable to, right?
Yeah. And I think one thing when you think about a PR district too, is it's always gonna be a bigger, it's typically a bigger piece of land. Typically.
But it doesn't have to be.
No, but it's typically, and that's why part of me even leans more towards the CUP, because, you know, it just, there's just a lot of variables.
Well, I'm in agreement that I think I would lean towards the CUP too. In fact, very strongly lean towards the CUP. I agree with everything that Eric just talked about. He did put a lot of work into this. Thanks for bringing this up to us in the first place. When I read the language, I come to the same conclusion that the majority of the speakers have come to, that I think that was the intent in the first place. And, whether somebody hit the wrong key on a keyboard or something, I don't know. Even though you spend thousands of dollars going back and researching to find out when that was actually done, I don't think we need to do that. I think it just makes sense that it needs to be a CUP. And dealing with whether or not it's a public good to do X, Y, or Z on that property, that's what we do, right? I mean, we look at issues like that, and we try to decide whether it's good for the city or not good for the city. And if it's something to do with a park, like a park pavilion, or someone mentioned, dugouts for a ball field or something, I don't think there would be anybody that would be against putting something like that in. I mean, that's for the public good. I mean, it's better for the kids. It's better for the community. The improvements that we're making down at L.C. Stevens Park or plan on making there, that's all for the public good. I don't see that as an impediment to anything that we've wanted to do or that we want to do in the future.
Yeah, I guess I'd like to just echo what I've heard from the Plan Commission members and the people who've spoken at the public hearing. I think it's evident to me that it is supposed to be a conditional use permit for accessory structures in the PR district. I agree with even the typo error that the C key is right next to the F key, right? So I think I've done that when I've written out things, right? I think everybody has a typo here or there, and then you hit send and you say there's a typo in there, right? The other benefit for a conditional use permit, obviously, these types of buildings aren't built all the time. The other benefit for the conditional use permit is that it is a public hearing, so notification will be given out, and those who are interested or might be affected by a proposed use can certainly voice their opinion one way or the other. They can either voice it against or say, yeah, this is a great thing that Dayton's doing. That will take out any consideration or any question whether or not a band shell is located in the correct location, or a garage is located in the correct location on a property, right? So I agree that conditional use permit is probably what was intended, and I would vote that we would continue to keep it as a conditional use.
Yeah, I would echo that and support that direction. I do think it's a little odd that we're using the term accessory when it comes to like parks and stuff that may or may not have a primary building. So I don't know if there's additional work there in the future to try to clean up what that really means. And also, just does a pavilion without walls, is that an accessory structure, or is that just a canopy? So
Assuming the ordinance is corrected and it's a conditional use, the way that we would interpret it is that anything that requires a building permit, which is over 200 square feet, would then require a conditional use.
Be considered an accessory structure.
A dugout would
Yeah.
not. Band shell would.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, in general, it's a betterment to look at something and see if there's ways to improve the impact on the community. So it's the right use.
Yeah, I guess I'll just echo what everyone else is saying too, is when it's also a private use, Again, I visualize these type of parcels generally as bigger parcels, and it just gives us more say in the making sure that, you know, it's not adversely impacting anything, such as the neighboring uses.
I got nothing to add. I agree. It was written clearly in the language. The table is there to reinforce the language or be a shortcut, and it just appears to be a typo.
With that, I guess I'll make a motion here.
We need to deny the,
Well, I think the motion can be to, it's still amend the ordinance, but amend the code to change that F to a C. Everything else would remain the same. So the language that was proposed to be stricken, as far as the highlighted language here on the screen, would remain. And the only thing that would change as far as this code amendment would be changing that F to a C.
I'd second that motion.
So we have a motion and a second to amend the table and leave the language. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Next item, 8B, amending the preliminary plat and PUD of Sundance Greens and Sundance Greens 12th edition.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this item, staff is requesting to table, and I'll get into the explanation a little bit. The applicant is requesting a preliminary plat approval of Sundance Greens 12th edition, as well as an amendment to the original preliminary plat in PUD. Let's see if this. So Sundance Greens 12th edition was originally reviewed in 2017 as a concept plan, which includes 670 units total. I do not remember the whole conversation at that point, but at that time there was I believe there was a proposal to develop the golf course entirely into single-family homes. The concept plan proposed to develop about half the course and preserve the other half as a 9-hole golf course, and it was marketed as the Working Man's Country Club. The PUD was approved, or the preliminary plat in PUD was approved in 2018 with 563 units. With the planning unit development, and with the last slide, this was required to be a planning unit development because it falls within the Greenway Overlay District that's shown in the comprehensive plan. With the planning unit development, there's kind of a give and take with it. The PUDs allow for deviations from the city code requirements in return for some kind of a public benefit. So in this case, the public benefit is listed on the screen here. It includes a variety of lot sizes, as well as the preservation of the golf course. And this is all from the 2018 report in the council minutes. Deviations are also listed here, which include narrower lots and reduced setbacks. And then coming forward to the present day, we're for Sundance Greens 12th edition. In staff's review of the project, the applicant is asking to kind of reconfigure some of the lots here. Staff's interpretation is that the street configuration is significantly different than what was approved in 2018, which would justify an amendment to the preliminary plat. What was approved in 2018 was 58 lots. What's being approved is 48, so it's a significant change, but it's also a reduction in use. One of the changes, or I should say test within this project, is to move the maintenance shed from its current location to the northeast corner of the golf course. The proposed maintenance shed is on the golf course property. It is not part of Sundance Greens 12th, but because all of the golf course was part of the original preliminary plat in PUD, we're interpreting the maintenance shed as being part of the PUD, even though it's not part of the 12th edition. So,
Could I ask a
Yeah.
question right now?
Yeah.
When you say we are interpreting, is that staff? Have you reviewed
Staff,
it?
yes.
Have you reviewed it with the city attorney?
Not this part of it, no.
Okay.
During, let's see. With the preliminary plat, generally, and this is specific to the lots, and we're interpreting it to be relatively consistent with the intent of the original preliminary plat, other than the street reconfiguration. Critical issues related to the preliminary plat include some unresolved issues for stormwater and wetlands, as well as grading of slopes. With the PUD amendment, so specific to the maintenance shed, the critical issues with this is reduced driveway setback, or I'll just say reduced driveway setback, building setback, landscape buffer, parking stall size, and as well as a second driveway. As we had mentioned with the last item, the golf course is zoned public recreation. That district doesn't have a whole lot of details with it, so there's sometimes there's a setback, sometimes there's not. So unless the public recreational district, I'm going to say if the public recreational district was silent on something, we looked at the proposed maintenance shed as what it would be required if it were in the business district. What are those requirements? Because it's a PUD, we can kind of take standards in the business district and apply it to, I'm going to say, more of a commercial use within the public recreation. So it's a little bit of a stretch there, but it's more of a, I'm going to call it practical reasoning that we use to try to figure out how does this fit. Okay. What I have here is views of approximately where the maintenance shed would go. So this is, here we have the 12th edition. This is the proposed maintenance shed. This is a panoramic view from this point, about midway point on the pedestrian trail, looking towards the golf course, and then, close to the maintenance shed, looking towards the homes. And then I think I skipped over this. The reasoning why staff is recommending that this be tabled, in writing the staff report, we realized that the zoning map is in error. The zoning map shows the whole entirety of the golf course as being public recreational. In reviewing the ordinance from the ordinance amendment of the zoning map in 2018, the planned lots were rezoned from public recreational to R3. That was never shown on our zoning map because the lot layout differs today versus 2018. There's a discrepancy in the zoning map, and that needs to be corrected. So it's, when you look at the map, it looks fairly minor, but it is a significant change. So again, staff is recommending that this item be tabled so that we can repost the public hearing notice to include the rezoning. Based on the last item, this would also require a conditional use permit for the accessory building. But as Darren had mentioned, is any use that's allowed within the city code can be incorporated into the PUD. So kind of where we're going is the same, but how we get there is a little different. So the building could be interpreted as being part of the PUD rather than a separate conditional use permit. So, yeah, I've kind of skimmed over what some of the critical issues are, but I'm assuming there's going to be quite a bit of discussion on this.
Any questions for staff at this point?
Yeah, I got a couple just,
Yeah, I've got a couple.
just to be clear on these issues and get clarification here as well as some other things. So what we were saying is that the maintenance building location was never considered in 2018 or approved through a site plan in 2018?
So in the 2018 plan sets, there's maybe 20, 30 different drawings. The maintenance shed shows up on the landscaping plan. I believe it showed up on the grading plan There's other plans where it doesn't show.
And those plans were approved
Yes,
in 2018.
yes. I don't know if there's much of any discussion specific to the maintenance building.
But there are plans that were approved in 2018 by the council
Yes.
that
So,
showed the maintenance building in the current location that's being proposed, that we're seeing tonight.
correct. So for example, this is a landscape plan that was from 2018 that shows the maintenance building in the northeast corner and then shows houses where the existing maintenance building is now.
But we're still are being required or asked to approve a site plan that includes that maintenance building through the current process.
Correct. So with the site plan review, it gets into a lot more detail. So like in this plan, it's just a rectangle in a location.
Have we gotten any opinion or anything potentially from the city attorney that the plans indicating the maintenance building on the approved plans in 2018 hold any type of water? As far as saying the council has approved the building, even if it's tacitly or inadvertently, they approved the building in this location?
No, the city attorney has not reviewed this.
I mean, if this is going to go towards tabling, which I think it probably will because it has to, obviously a lot of the public comment that we've heard is the location of that building. I would want some kind of confirmation that from the city attorney, or I'd request it anyway, that if the approved plans in 2018 essentially approved the location of that building, or did it need to go through a formal site plan review process for that building at that time? That's going to make a huge difference on what we as a planning commission and city council can do moving forward with the location of that building. I mean, I just don't know if it would be open for discussion as far as if the plan was approved in 2018 and the city attorney says that's where the plans show and everything's been approved and that's the location of this building. I don't know how you can go back on that unless
Sure.
we want to open it up or have that as discussion for the PUD. I don't even know if you can do that.
So
at that point.
in that case, we would still have, I mean, I call it a site plan review that would be applicable because we're looking at more the three-dimensional of the building. So let's say the building location stays where it is.
Right, but we would look at,
Yeah,
we would look at height and,
Setbacks.
well, maybe not even setbacks, right? Because if it's
Right.
location's location. So height, building materials, functionality, things of that nature, screening. Okay. I guess the other question I would have is related to the second driveway, and I think that goes in part and parcel with the somewhat maybe approval of where that location of the accessory building or that maintenance garage is, right? So obviously, you're gaining access to that with this second driveway, and if that was kind of approved already type of thing, or if we could get some recommendation or some opinion from the city attorney on that as well.
Does the second driveway show up on those views that show the original building back in 2018?
I'm not going to be able to zoom in that far. I mean, I would say yes. You know, the line is pretty thin.
So it kind of falls back on what
Yeah,
Commissioner Sargent's talked about. We need to have a legal opinion on where we stand with that and what it actually gave permission to do back in that day. I have a couple of additional questions dealing with with how we deal with the property. You talked about the zoning being maybe not as accurate as it should have been in days past. So clearly today, what does the city think the property that that building is set to be built on or proposed to be built on is zoned?
public recreation. I mean, that part is clear.
Okay. So it's the other part with the homes that have been redesigned along the new road? Is it-
Yeah, so the lots that are, and it's hard to see this, that are outlined in blue is what is zone R3. And then what that means is there's these little slivers here, in here that are not correctly zoned. Which again, on the screen, it looks fairly insignificant, but it's still important.
How do we, in looking at what you sent us out in the packet, how do we get to the point where we're looking at where the proposed maintenance building is located, be treated as a business zoning district? How do we get to that? How do we make that leap? Because you just lose me there.
You mean as far as using the business regulations?
Well, as far as setbacks from adjacent properties and setback for the driveway, and
Sure.
I mean, that's all important to folks, right?
So in the public recreational district, and then again, I want to emphasize, we don't work in this district very often.
Right.
There's setbacks for, I'm going to call it, I'm going to look at the code again. There's general setbacks that are, for the building. I can't remember if there's for parking or not, but it's very general. It's not very detailed. When you go in the business district, there's a whole lot of detail. If you have to have certain, there's setback for buildings, setback for parking, setback for landscaping. It's much more detailed because we have more experience in working in the business districts.
But if we treat it as a business district, it really changes the view from the folks in Brayburn Addition's backyard, right? It moves the driveway closer to the property line. It halves the distance the building would be from the property line. I mean, I'm just not making, I just don't make that jump, you know what I mean?
So the overall intent here, as a planned unit development, there's flexibility. So again, like the regulations of the city code then become a guideline. So then it's up to the planning commission and council, what do you want to require? What is appropriate? So if the business district requires a 20-foot setback for the driveway, they're proposing 5, maybe the council comes up with something, 25, or maybe it's 0.
To be clear, the PR district has a building setback.
Has a building setback, it does not have a setback for driveways.
Correct. Okay.
Currently, in the PR district, the setback for a building is 50 feet.
Correct.
That in itself is close. But if we talk about applying the business district standards, that halves that. That makes 25 feet. That's less than the length of this room. That's like in their backyard, right?
Isn't the business district 40 feet, I think, is in the packet?
Well,
For building setbacks.
what we were given is from residential property, the 50-foot is required in the PR district. And it would be set back 25 feet from residential property if we applied.
Yeah, the applicant's requesting 25 in the PUD amendment.
And just for a little bit of clarity, so directly behind the building, this is an outlot that contains a city pedestrian trail, and then this is a single-family home.
And the 50 feet is still from the
Property
property
line.
boundary,
Yeah.
the golf course boundary.
And I believe that there was this was, came to the planning commission in March, I believe.
Yep.
Was tabled. At that time, and I'm going to look to Tom because I can't remember, I believe there was a plan to have the building farther away with the garage doors and the parking lot facing north. And there was some opposition to that, and so it was flipped. So really, I mean, to me, one of the factors is every case is a little different, or every location's a little different. What is the, I'm going to call it the potential nuisance that we're trying to prevent from happening? And what's the solution to prevent those nuisances from occurring? You know, so if, for example, if the nuisance potential is noise, how much of a difference does it make if the building's set back 25 feet or 50 feet? Same thing with lighting or anything else you can think of.
Well, I'm glad we all agreed that there is some nuisance factor here. How you quantify that, I guess, depends on where you're sitting, whether you're sitting in Brayburn Addition with your house facing that, or whether you're sitting down, down an eighth of a mile over off from 113th. I mean, there's a huge difference. This whole process has bothered me right from the very beginning. They have a maintenance shop there. I understand that it's an older building and it clearly needs repair. I mean, Tom has told us that. But if there's a nuisance factor here, we have to quantify what that nuisance is, and then you would have to decide whether or not it's fair to transfer that nuisance factor from the new homes that the developer is building, which would be in their backyard, over to somebody else's backyard. That's what you have to quantify. I have a real hard time with that. I don't care what color of brush you paint it with, I just have a real hard time with that.
With quantifying what the nuisance is?
Well, number one, quantifying what the nuisance is, and we might think we all have a picture in our own mind of what we think that might be, right? But the issue is not whether or not there is a nuisance, because we all know what it is, we just don't know at what level, right? It's hard to quantify it. But do we transfer that nuisance from where the current shop is, down next to the parking lot by the golf course and the bowling alley parking lot, which is right behind all the new homes that they're developing on this new redesigned street? Or do we move it up to the neighborhood that's existing in Brayburn and put that nuisance, whatever you might quantify it, in their backyard?
Okay.
That's really in a nutshell what we're looking at here.
So I'd like to just, let's stay on task here before we start deliberating. Just questions for staff. We'll invite the applicant up in a little bit. We'll open the public hearing, take comments tonight, and then I propose we table it and not deliberate tonight. That's going to be my proposal. Questions or clarifications? I mean, Jeff, you brought up a great one of, we need to consult with the attorney. I don't know if there's anything else that staff has on this.
No, it's a great idea.
Yeah, I would encourage too, if any members on the planning commission have recommendations for the applicant, since there is going to be tabled, because we are going to see it again, but if there's things that you might think might help address any issues, we might as well tell him that now so we can think about that. And I don't think we need to necessarily deliberate them.
Right.
But I do think it's up to the applicant to make sure that, if you think that Keith and Paul have one opinion and us three have another opinion, make sure you ask, because obviously it's the majority that, has to say in when it's all said and done.
Well, it's the majority that gives a recommendation to the city
That's a
council.
good point, too.
Yes, so there,
But I think it's still
the
good
buck
if-
doesn't stop here.
Correct.
We give a recommendation. So.
All right. With that, any other questions for staff at this point? Otherwise, I'd like to invite the applicant up.
So I think a few things. None of you guys were.
I'm sorry, Tom, if you could-
Tom Dean, 11261 Fernbrook Lane. One of the things that I can share, this discussion there was a lot of discussions in 2018, One was the developer of Brayburn and myself. We were the bidders, right? And if I didn't get the golf course, that golf course would have went away, period, right? Because I had conversations with the city, and I said, if you guys think it really needs to be a golf course, you guys own it, right? Then, you know what I mean? Take it on, and it was in disarray, and so we talked about different things and and this maintenance building was discussed. So I mean, I think the good thing is, we put a lot of sweat and energy into that. It is improving. It looks way better now than it did in the past. We've invested into the building itself. We want to do some other future expansions, hopefully help, growth of Dayton. So like one of the things adding on to the bowling alley, could we put some indoor pickleball courts, something there, right? There's some things there that we're trying to get some substance to make it sustainable. And so one of the things I look is even some of the days now when there is bowling and golf, they're parked all the way past Kingsview on 113th. So we don't have enough parking. I'm giving up 10 lots, right? I mean, if you want to question the building, we won't even have this discussion. I'll just leave the initial and pull it, and we'll do the initial layout and go back to where we're at. And then that building was approved in that spot. If you go out into the entrance of this building, coming into City Hall, it's been hanging in that entrance since 2018. And I have been very clear to everybody in Sundance Greens that this was the plan to move it, because they asked, right? You think going there too, that building that's up now, right, is obviously an eyesore. The new one isn't gonna be. And so I've been clear, this was approved in 2018. And I do think there's definitely some potential, maybe setting the city up for some litigation, because that was discussed. Now, if I've seen everybody's notes, and everything for the meeting. I mean, if you want to address the issues, some of the issues that the residents have, I sure can go through them quick. But, I mean, I think the reality is, it's an approved, I'm not asking for anything, so to ask it, if you look in the code, and if you read it, I would say 15,000 square feet is the minimum size. We don't need 100, we don't need that size. I initially had 7,200, and then really looked and said, how could we condense it? So we reduced it to 6,000. I have a building that I think, I could have just put up a pole building, right? A new pole building, looks way better than what's there. I personally am selling lots that are going to be in the 12th edition that are going to look right at it. And I'm okay if there's a heartbeat or a bunch of heartache about, 25 feet. I was just doing that, as much as I got up here, would I like to say, hey, there's no conditional use permit on it, right? And for me, that would be favorable. But I look at the city, and today it could be something, it could affect somewhere else, right? So the good of the city, and so some of the things that I have done, right? I've lowered that grade 6 feet to get the building down so it doesn't stick so high. The height restrictions are 25 feet. I could probably go to a 5,000 square foot building if I could put 20-foot height up, but I've kept it down lower, just as low as I can. I don't really want to have 12-foot walls, because I'm trying to condense it. I want to stack it, I want to pallet rack and stack things up inside, So I think some of the things I've done have been trying to be neighborly, which would maybe are certain things that would be, right? Those are things you review at a CUP. Hey, you can't have a 25-foot high building or something. We don't have garbage. We take all our garbage to the golf course, even at the current site. So you don't have a garbage truck. Maybe once a month you have a fuel truck in. We don't do any of our spraying on the golf course. We hire all that out. So we don't have any chemicals in there. I'll be honest with you, I don't really have a guy that can barely change oil, let alone grease things. So I mean, one of the pictures I seen, we don't have machine shop and welders and all kinds of stuff in it. We basically, with 9 holes, we will be able to reduce some of our equipment, right? Because we just don't need it all. And in reality, it's been a bunch of old stuff, so you kind of this and that. We probably will, once we get in a new building, or we'll have newer equipment so we can fit it all inside. Because as much as me being willing to change the doors at 25 feet, I have all the new homes I'm building looking at that. So I think, I'm not saying I'm I'm not willing to work with the neighbors, but I also have this space that either I put a fairway in and everybody's balls are, going in the yards, and those have been a complaint, right? So where we place this is this nice little separate piece of property, and we thought a lot about that at the layout at the beginning. It wasn't just throw a dart to a map and go, hey, here it is. When, that Brayburn development wouldn't even be existed currently if we didn't allow the sewer pipe to go through there. And so I had discussions very clear on this building with the developer. If they weren't disclosed, I don't think that's my fault, because it's been, this plan has been approved since 2018. So, I think what I'm just up here saying is, I understand they don't want the building. I'm not like leaving a fairway, putting 50-foot high nets all the way along the golf course, because that could have been an alternative too. And I'm trying to keep it condensed and low. So, yeah, could you see the building? But it isn't like you're not going to be panoramically, you can see other spots of the golf course that are open. I'm not trying to inhibit it, and I'm not trying to do anything negative to the folks that live there. It's just like, I had this plan way before they were built. And I don't think it's fair for me to give up parking space. I'm already willing to give up some home space for it, but I think if there's some problems, then maybe I just go back to the original and just pull this.
Any questions?
Just got a couple of questions just to clarify. Like, is there set hours of operation that you anticipate that?
Usually, the guys start at 7, and they're done usually by 3:30, if not even before. Now during the summer, in the last couple of years, it's been a little longer just because we're reseeding, we're doing things to get prepared for this last phase. Really, we have to add the new holes aligned before we can tear some up. So could there be some, and that's why there's probably some rocks and some different things. We still have a whole bunch of retaining walls and other things going up. But in general, we got 3 guys, to cut grass. We don't really have anything bigger than a Bobcat. We do have a big loader. It's just been around there. But, most of it, we have some smaller lawnmowers operating. And then the other thing, most often, let's say it rained all week, and now all of a sudden Saturday's good. They may be out there early in the morning, but that's usually our busiest day. So Saturday and Sundays, very seldom do we have, somebody working. And then, it's, and I suppose between get to the beginning of the season, you wind down, you're probably looking 8 months. So it's not like it's a business open and people are in and out all day, It's kind of one of the struggles. I agree with you, Keith. It's got kind of tagged as a business, but it doesn't have that regular traffic as a business. It's not a 12-month operating, if you look at some of the things in the business district, they can be open from dusk to dawn every day, and a lot of traffic in there. The other big part is why we located it. It is access to the course. My guys pull out of the shed, they're on the golf course, right? I don't have to worry about them going down a road, crossing a public road, crossing parking. We're not crossing any public trails. We're not crossing any roads. It's just super efficient for us.
With this plan, is the trail, the paved trail on the northern property border going away?
So the trail on the northern property would be an outlot that's in the Brayburn, I think.
You're talking the golf cart path.
Yeah, the golf cart path, yeah.
That is going away.
That is going away.
That is going away. There'll be a new one located to, we'll have a new one, and it'll run up along the 9th hole.
Tom, what's the height of the structure?
Right now, the peak is 14 feet.
Okay, and it slopes down to the north?
Yeah, and I can't remember if it's 10 or 12. I believe it's 12 because we kept 10-foot sidewall. It's really hard not to have 10-foot sidewall.
And the grading plan makes it look like at the peak of the retaining wall, it's about 8 feet up.
I think it's.
111 to 120, it's almost 9 feet.
Yeah, I think right in the very peak, but then it
920.
slopes down
Yeah.
quite a bit.
Yeah.
You know, I put some drawings with some bigger trees in it, keeping it natural. If it requires, we need fencing and trees, I'm okay with it.
John, can you put up the renderings of the maintenance building? What side is going to be, just for orientation purposes, facing the properties to the north?
It isn't on that rendering there. It would be, so the doors to
Those
the
doors
south.
are facing south.
Yes.
So the north side of the building's not on there. So I would imagine that's a blank wall.
That's a blank wall.
All right, so I mean, I think that through the site planning process, there's obviously going to be and this is assuming that this building can be located or is going to be located in this area. There's going to be a delicate balance between what the aesthetics of how much should it be screened, right? I mean, the property owners, I think, to the north probably purchased their property to get views of the golf course. And then you screen a building, and now use the screening that's screening the building is also screening the golf course. So there's going to be a balance between what's appropriate to screen the building, if that's considered, and, you know, the view sheds of the property owners to the north that are concerned with the location of this building. What I'm suggesting is potentially having that north-facing wall not be a blank wall. I know for the operations and function of the building, you can't put windows in there, but there's certainly options of expandable glass or fake windows that you would dress architecturally that side to make it look more residential, let me say, rather than a blank wall of a maintenance shed.
And those are all reasonable things, right?
I'm throwing that out there for Commissioner Brownen suggesting as far as things you could potentially consider the next time we meet in a month.
And I think if there's, you know, the wall, like, that's why I cut it down initially, right, 6 feet. And then, let's say we get 10 or 12-foot pine trees and mixed with some other trees, it covers a lot of it, right?
It does, but then do the 10 and 12-foot pine trees ruin the view shed of property owners to the north, right? So that's the other thing to consider.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna say that I don't think that's a property right issue. I don't think those property owners have an unlimited view right of.
No,
Just
but
like
it's something
looking
we
over
can.
a farmer's field. I'd rather look
Right.
over a farmer's field all day long than something
And
else.
I think if you
Right.
put
But I
the
don't have that
drawing out,
right
it
to
isn't that
protect
they can't see the golf
I
course.
think we could
they
give them
just
that right
can't-
through the PUD, though.
They can't see a 180 panoramic, but there's
Right.
still a lot of golf course they can see.
I get it.
And we've cleaned it up. I'm not arguing about putting glass, if that's where, you know.
I would
that's a
just say
simple
something to
fix.
adjust the back side of a building that
Yeah.
is adjacent to the most affected property owners
Yeah.
next to that building.
I do think my question, though, is gonna be, to you guys, is the 25-foot or the 50-foot setback? Because I don't care either way, but if it needs to be 50, then I need to turn the building.
I think what we need to do is get the opinion from the city attorney as far as where the location was approved and work from there.
Are you saying, Tom, that it's gonna be difficult to comply with the 50-foot setback without turning the building back so the loading doors are facing the homes?
It starts sloping off. But I can go either way, you know. And maybe the residents, you know, I mean, I know they don't want it, but if, I do see, you know, I'm hoping I can maybe have some more discussion. I don't know, I'm gonna reach out to their HOA. I know they have a meeting Wednesday night at the golf course. We let them use the golf course for the meetings, and, you know, I'm okay to have, you know, discussion, but it's just hard, I feel like it was approved. It was a really hard discussion many times, and so I was there. If their developer didn't disclose it, it shouldn't be my penalty.
How far is your proposed maintenance shop away from the new homes that you're going to be building on the north side of your property?
I can't answer that, but there's a wetland that runs in between. So you have all the drainage coming from Brayburn that comes across through the golf course. So that we can't inhibit. So I didn't measure that. But as much as, the willingness to turn, we just kind of looked at 50-foot setback at the beginning. So when the residents in the first discussion said, hey, we don't want the doors, I'll turn it, and all the homes we're building can look at it, and I'm gonna be all right? We're gonna have $1 million plus houses along there, so it isn't that we're gonna throw up some piece of junk, they all have to look at it too.
I think a perspective we haven't considered too is, go back to the height of the building where it looks like the retaining wall at the high end closest to the property towards the west is 8 feet tall. Almost by the end of on the east side, it's still about 6 feet tall, and then it slopes off before the parking. So the retaining wall starts before parking hits. There's grade increase from this to the houses. It might be a little bit, but then the primary living space is up on the second floor, I presume. And so once you go up another 10, 12 feet in those homes and you look out over the golf course, you're not going to be looking at this building, you're going to be looking over the building. Yes, you'll see the roof, and the building will be in your foreground, but the perspective of the golf course, I feel, will still be there because of what the applicant is doing with the building and the height and lowering it down. I would differ a little bit to Mr. Sargent with regards to the windows on the other side, because the retaining wall, I think it's going to be buried enough. I don't know if that really impacts it. I think you've got, you're doing what a lot of homes do right now. You put a band board around the upper part, and then you change the siding on the upper half. That's pretty similar to a lot of the homes that are being built in this area. So maybe it's just looking at the materiality change there to make sure it's kind of consistent with other buildings in the space. But
And I think we tied the colors into the existing golf course.
yeah,
So.
yeah. And a lot of homes in that area are gray. But
Any other questions or feedback for the applicant?
Well, thank you. I guess I just would, then probably hear the feedback on the setback. Would be nice to have a more clear direction of where you guys want to go.
Or potentially with all the critical issues, since that's what you're going to be asking for in the PUD amendment, I'm assuming?
Yes. Specific to the maintenance building.
I think maybe we should open the public hearing and then we can deliberate on those a little bit. Table the item.
Sure. Thank you.
thanks.
With that, at 7:50, I will open the public hearing.
Oh, yep. I never had a name and a face to put together.
I'm Bruce Gartner. I live at 11521 Polaris Lane. I submitted a written report opposing this application and asked that it be included in the Planning Commission record, and I provided hard copies for each commissioner. I'm a fan of Sundance Golf Course, and I agree that it should have a new maintenance building, just not in our backyards. I owned and operated a golf course for 28 years, and my course had home sites developed under a PUD. I understand maintenance buildings and why it matters where they're located in proximity to dwellings. When Sundance invites residential development along its fairways and behind its tees and greens, it enters into a bargain. Its owners can't pretend the course wasn't represented as an amenity to home buyers in 2018, the same way it's being represented now in 2026. Sundance can't integrate new home sites with new tees in 2026 while asking you to let it rescind the same amenity the Brayburn Trails development relied on in 2018 and home buyers bargained for. And what is that amenity if not the view? The view of the golf course is exactly what people bargain for when they build or buy homes on golf courses. What else is there? They don't get to play for free, trespass, or use the course as a driving range from their backyards. Sundance is asking you to let it move the course's least residentially compatible feature to where it invited people to live in 2018, while removing the existing maintenance building from where new homes are planned. The city shouldn't allow Sundance to sell a new group of homeowners the benefits of living along fairways, tees, and greens at the same time it tells another group of homeowners that the amenity they bargained for is being replaced by the backside of a maintenance yard. The Dayton City Code ordinance on the screen promises that the development shall not have a detrimental effect upon the neighborhood or area in which it is proposed to be located. A detriment is a loss or a harm. Here the detriment is obvious. It's the loss of quiet enjoyment of homes, the loss of the golf course and open space views homeowners relied on, health and safety threats, and the loss of value that follows when the backside of a maintenance yard replaces the view of the golf course. This doesn't harmonize with the neighborhood. It harms the neighborhood. For these reasons, I respectfully ask you to recommend denial of this location, and if you're not prepared to deny it tonight, then table it not to resolve the zoning discrepancy, but to ask the council to order an environmental assessment worksheet. Thank you for hearing me.
Thank you.
My name is Colette Engel, and my address is 11521 Polaris Lane. I have a question for the city attorney. Dayton City Code limits Sundance Golf Course to one access to a city street. The staff report identifies the proposed Polaris Lane access as a deviation from the city code. City code says PUD deviations must have a public benefit. But in plain language, the applicant is asking the city for a variance. Minnesota law plainly states that the circumstances that require a variance can't have been created by the landowner, and that the variance can't alter the essential character of the locality. Dayton's own code uses the same criteria. Here, the applicant may have created the circumstance himself, and the proposed access may alter the essential character of the locality, and the Polaris Lane access has no public benefit. Here is my question. If this access from Polaris Lane fails the variance test and has no public benefit, what authority does the City Council have to approve it? Thank you. May I provide you with a copy of the citations I referred to?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Kathy Johnson, 11532 Brayburn Trail. Good evening, Mayor and members of the Dayton City Council. My family lives adjacent to the proposed site of the new golf course maintenance building. We are not opposed to the golf course or to improvements that help it succeed. We simply believe that a 6,000 square foot maintenance facility with approximately a 15,000 square foot operational footprint located only 75 feet from our property is the wrong project in the wrong location. When we purchased our home, we chose it because it backed up to the open green space, beautiful views, and a peaceful setting. We never imagined that the area behind our home would become an industrial maintenance center where equipment is stored, repaired, fueled, maintained, and dispatched every day. This is much more than another golf course feature. It would bring early morning equipment activity, commercial vehicles, backup alarms, maintenance operations, security lighting, and noise into a quiet residential neighborhood, just 75 feet away from our property and not much further from our bedroom window. These are not occasional inconveniences. They would become part of our daily lives. Our home is more than our family's largest investment. It is where we've built our lives, made memories, celebrated holidays, and found the peace and quiet that drew us to this neighborhood. We have invested not only financially, but emotionally in this property because of its unique setting, and that setting would be permanently changed by this proposal. I would also ask the council to consider the Planned Unit Development Ordinance, Section 1001.10, Subdivision 31C, states that a planned unit development can be planned and developed to harmonize with any existing or proposed development in areas surrounding the project site and should not have a detrimental effect upon the neighborhood or area in which it is proposed to be located. I respectfully ask you to consider how a 6,000 square foot maintenance facility with its associated operations only 75 feet from an existing property harmonizes with the surrounding neighborhood or avoids having a detrimental effect. I believe this proposal changes the character of our residential property in a way that is inconsistent with that standard. We ask you to consider whether there is another location on the golf course that allows the facility to serve its purpose without placing such a significant burden on neighboring homeowners. If another location is available, we ask that you require the plans for the building to be moved. This decision is permanent. Once this building is constructed, our family will live with its impacts every day. The maintenance building can still be planned and relocated before construction begins. Our home cannot. Tonight, I ask you to uphold the standards the city has already adopted. The protections in your planned unit development ordinance exist to ensure that new development harmonizes with existing neighborhoods and does not have a detrimental effect on surrounding properties. My family trusted those protections when we invested in our home and ask that they are honored today. Please find a location for this facility that allows the golf course to operate successfully while preserving the quality of life, property rights, and trust of the families who already call Dayton home. Thank you for your time, your service, and your thoughtful consideration.
As I don't have anything written, but I can certainly.
I'm sorry, could you repeat your name?
Sure. Mike Peterson, 11536 Brayburn Trail. I'm very, very close adjacent to it. When we chose our lot, right, we considered things with our severely autistic son that, you know, we use Sundance frequently with Josh all the time. And with his abuse and stuff, sound, all these things are triggers. And we picked it for the quietness and the solitude. Yes, you have traffic going by, but in the cul-de-sac, that's why we picked it. And also, we have other individuals in the neighborhood that have autism. Building things like that with the sound, and you said it very well, Keith, from the, you know, you can take one thing over here and move it over here and we'll have another issue. I ask a few things to keep in mind of the design of the building, the location, and also maybe even another thought. The roof, when the water comes off with that, and you also have the drainage right now, if you want to bring up, yeah, that one. Maybe one more. There, that's good. This is a flat kind of roof with a slant. That water is going to go directly to where our houses are over here, and it's already a low-lying area. Okay? That water is going to be backing up. Plus, you have over here, you have the drainage area there that you mentioned, which is great. that also you can't really mess with because that's right now a natural habitat. Right? The concern I have is that's going to increase both the traffic, the water and stuff like that that's going to come off that road from when we have the big rains. The thing that I would ask, if you go to the picture of where they had the golf course road, next one, keep going. There. I ask, as a thought, you have the clubhouse here, right? The existing clubhouse parking. As a thought, because of the roof the way it is, could you ever put something on that roof like a patio, where you could have it adjacent to and kind of back up here where then it's not impacting anyone and it'd be part of the golf course there anyway. It's just another thought, but I asked the commission to not have it there and find a new place for it in that regard. And I'll end there and thank you for your time.
Thank you.
So Eric Seppelt, 11534 Brayburn Trail. I have some folders to provide you guys if you're interested. They just provide a little bit of context to the statements I'll make, some resources to review if you'd like.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
So I guess first question would be, with it being tabled, will the public hearing be closed or will it be continued until the next commission discussion of this?
It would be
It will be, yeah, it will have to be continued because of the way it was published.
Okay, appreciate it. I'll speak to a few things. I'm kind of going to pivot here a little bit and discuss a couple things that were brought up, just to maybe provide some clarity to those that it otherwise wasn't, I feel like, in the staff discussion or the discussion with the applicant. One thing regarding setbacks, the PR district is a building setback of 50 feet. Business districts, I believe, I don't know what the setback is off the top of my head, but when it is adjacent to residential, the building and the parking setback is shared as an more excessive distance. I believe that would be consistent with what City Council is asking for and later in this meeting to be discussed about a moratorium to better determine these setbacks next to residential. So in regards to the 25 setback, it seems unreasonable to pivot from that. It also seems that if the setback is 50 feet in a PR district and it should be shared with the parking setback when it's next to residential, then even if the applicant wanted to flip the building, then that would still push the parking and maneuvering area to a 50-foot setback in the PR district. And the building would be then additional beyond what that parking and maneuvering area is. Regarding the picture in the hallway, just ask any one of you to walk out past it when you leave, and you'll see that it's incorrect. There's no building on that picture. Same picture I was provided when I reached out to city representation before I bought my house, asking what any plans would be on the golf course there, what was approved. The other, I guess, thing I would bring up is if this was proposed before and this is approved before, then why were there no plans ready for the March public hearing? That, I guess, doesn't make sense to me if this had been already well thought out over the last 8 years. Let's see. The other part of that, I guess I'm a little confused on the public discussion point. I would assume that they would have to be public-facing discussions unless there's like private discussions between staff and an applicant on something that I'm not aware of. I would just ask you to go back and listen to the meetings from 2016 and view the ones from 2018 on to see if that's accurate. It's not consistent with what I've listened to and viewed. I'm going to kind of give a little bit of a drafted statement here. The area is zoned public recreation district, PUD applied overlay, we know that. the PUD agreement, the developer agreed to develop pursuant to the preliminary plot. Neither the driveway access nor the maintenance building are on this approved preliminary plot, and a relocation of the maintenance building was not indicated in the 2018 PUD. Looking at Resolution 23-2018, which is the City Council sign-off, it mentions it's signing off on the preliminary plot. So, again, I'm not a lawyer, but I imagine this will come up in the suggested review by the city attorney, but that is my interpretation of it. If it was an error, it was not rectified in the 2020 preliminary plot amendment or any time in the last 8 years through 11 phases of development. As stated, a street access driveway would require variance under standard zoning regulations. Regarding the maintenance building, all indications and what was decided tonight is a CUP would be required for an accessory building and certainly commercial building uses in the PR district. A PUD amendment should not serve as a means to circumvent the variance and CUP criteria defined in City Code to evaluate such requests. Much of this has been already stated, but I would say the variance criteria would not be met from subdivision 3 in 1001.29. Item 2B is not satisfied, is not a unique hardship. The applicant has created the situation through their own development decisions, and the request is driven by convenience and cost, not by necessity. Item 2C is not satisfied. The proposed driveway would alter the character of the locality. I would also say the maintenance building does not seem to comply with CUP conditions. I can maybe save this for later, but that would be item 2, item 6, and item 7, because they would not always be met as stated in 1001.23. Additionally, and maybe most importantly, the amendment does not meet PUD criteria. Improved design, public benefit is a clearly stated intent for the flexibility provided under PUD. I think additional explanation on a PUD has already been provided. But the driveway access is an untypical property extension of the golf course between two residents where it otherwise would not abut the street. It's approximately 350 to 400 feet long, which is more comparable to cul-de-sac streets and Brayburn trails. It places the maintenance building closer to, not further away from existing homes, thus shifting the new and greater impact upon residential areas not subject to the impacts. While the traffic volume may be low, it's for large lawn implements, delivery trucks, trailers, garbage trucks, UTVs, other equipment that have more significant impact on adjacent properties. We talked about the commercial impacts that it introduces, talked about the setback, moves that even more impactful, more impact closer to properties, and it cannot be guaranteed that the adjacent property values will not be negatively impacted. I would say there's actually direct conflict with the originally justified PUD benefits, one of those being the updated 9-hole golf course updates and redesign causing a negative impact to an existing developed is not a benefit. Preservation of open space was a benefit. This proposal consumes open green space. 113 road improvements were listed. Service-related traffic would now be diverted off 113th, intended for this type of use, and instead directed through residential neighborhoods. And parkland dedication in the northwest corner, which is now Dayton Farms. The driveway location now introduces concentrated vehicle activity and safety concerns within this park access corridor. The City Code may be best interpreted that the leniences provided under PUD are to directly result in the improved design and public benefit that adherence to strict zoning code would otherwise prevent. The intent is not to allow exceptions one place to provide unrelated benefits elsewhere as a trade-off. A PUD most certainly is not put in place to simply grant exceptions to rules. The rules still apply. The applicant was granted exceptions related to home setbacks, wetland buffers, lot widths, etc. in exchange for previously upon, yet I'd say debatable, so-called public benefits in the PUD. The amendment before you comes with no corresponding public benefit and certainly does not create a public benefit in its design. Opposition has been voiced in letters by representation from over 20 neighboring homes, a letter from the Brayburn Trails Master HOA, representing all 267 homes in the community, and statements made before this commission tonight and both in March. Residents or the public have clearly voiced they see no public benefit. Most importantly, the negative impacts cannot be meaningfully mitigated. While the applicant makes promises to appease the commission and council, there is no control over how operations are run or if current ownership will even remain in place. Adhering to screening requirements for visual and noise-related impacts is nothing more than an illusion of protection. For retaining walls and berms, sightline needs to be disrupted to have an impact on sound screening. The retaining wall shows, as discussed, elevation of 920, slopes down to 912, which is the same as the floor elevation shown. Elevation at my seated height of my deck and main floor living is 931 feet, and for my second floor window is 941 feet. I'll see the top of this, as just said, or I might see over it, but that also means that sound will be able to access the windows of my home or where I'm sitting on my deck. The wall simply cannot interrupt this sight line between maintenance activities in our home and therefore cannot meaningfully interrupt sound. The applicant says he'll plant very large pine and spruce trees. Scientific research indicates it takes 50 to 100 feet of dense vegetation types to provide any noticeable degree of sound screening. With a proposed 25-foot setback, this is not feasible, and even if attempted, the tree maturity needed to provide any density wouldn't be realized for several years. Furthermore, the retaining wall terminating at the parking edge, it is insufficient length to provide sound from refracting around it. With no additional screening provided the length of the driveway, lights coming down the driveway in the morning will shine right into my home, and when leaving at night, right into Bruce's home. Screening is not meant to be used as an excuse to allow something that's not allowed or it's not cohesive with the environment it's placed in, especially when it is not effective. The substation just down the road on 117th from our neighborhood is a prime example of screening's ineffectiveness. We can see that essentially is nothing is screened. Happy to pass this up when I'm done. There's, I'll skip this part just to spare you guys the time. This is the view of my home. It was already shared earlier. My neighbor Tim and Kathy's home, the corridor into our peaceful neighborhood. On the other side of that wall, my daughter's bedroom, the office where my wife conducts the administrative duties of her business, and our living room that we use to spend meaningful time together. The separation seen in this picture, which is not much, wasn't enough to buffer the sound and safeguard the enjoyment of our home when skid steers and chainsaws were used 300 feet south of my property during the course redesign operations. What is proposed will not be enough to protect us from daily sounds of maintenance operations carried out just 65 feet from my property and 105 feet from my home. The proposed location is clearly non-conforming and does not represent the least impactful or most compatible configuration. Opposition for us neighbors is not just about a view. It's about personal enjoyment of our homes and neighborhood. The detrimental impact is entirely avoidable by making renovations at or near the current maintenance building location. The guidelines for Planning Commission are clear, and that is your recommendation be guided by City Code and in accordance with the Planning Commission's pledge to residents. This decision is not about the applicant personally or even personal beliefs regarding land use. It's about whether City Code is applied consistently and whether residents are protected from avoidable harm. Likewise, you are not tasked with creating a working solution for the applicant's problem and should not feel obligated to grant the request. I respectfully ask that you recommend denial of the proposed amendment. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I also have, these are photos taken of the parking situation. I think it'll outline that it's different than what was described, and there is plenty of parking available. Maybe leave these a step.
Sure.
Just a couple things. I'm not gonna hear and refute everything, but maybe to help a little bit. One would be the driveway. I didn't cover that. It seems to be, some contention. A while ago, I had sent John, I stopped at 125 driveways in the city that have multiple driveways in one PID, right? So that might be another thing for you to look at as a code, because it's definitely not, to me, that code has been thrown out the door. City Hall has more, right? There's a lot of buildings that have more. The other thing, if that is really critical, right, coming into 113th, the entrance in splits two PIDs. I can move it over 20 feet to the south. I'll go by the direction of whatever you guys want to do. But, so there is definitely easily ability to have two different parcels. Then the other is on the drainage on the back. That water won't run into the neighbor's, right? We got the retaining wall, it'll drop low, and in our water calculations, stormwater calcs, it considers the building and all the parking building, so we've addressed that. We really never came with a building before, just because I don't really even think it's a part of the PUD amendment. We're wanting to just change our lot layout. To me, I already consider that was a fruit, spot. But I was willing to, instead of refute and just say, yeah, we can sit and have a discussion, right? So I'm gonna have to talk about it sometime, but just there's a couple of, the driveway thing, I forgot about that because that was a discussion point last time.
Thank you.
Can I just add something for the commission? There's, that list is provided in the same folder that I provided. There's a review on that if you'd like.
Yep. Any other public comments at this point?
Good evening, Natalie Miller. I'm 11529 Polaris Lane, so I am neighbors with Bruce and Colette. I sit kitty corner to Eric from a housing perspective. I'm 3 houses off the golf course, so I definitely will be impacted by this. When I look at what is being proposed, for me, it was the same thing where when I purchased this lot, I built my home custom. I did not take an inventory home. And one of the key discussions that I had with the builder, with David Weekley Homes, was what was going to be happening from a development perspective. Because I used to live in Sundance Woods, and that in Sundance Woods, as you know, they sold that land to D.R. Horton. And so I had a very tight backyard to the homes that D.R. Horton was building with very small setbacks, like in the egress. Like I had, couldn't even barely build a deck because that's how, what happened from the setbacks that were needed for that. And to me, that was too close, right? And that was a residential home. My home is a 2-story home with a walkout. And so when I look out my bedroom window, and I don't have any pictures, but I can certainly share photos, I will see this building. And I won't have the protections of any screening that is going to be provided. So if there are exterior lights on this building, if there are going to be security lights, if there's going to be anything that's on this building, that will directly come into not only my living room window, my dining room window, as well as my bedroom that is upstairs. So I'm asking you to consider what are the potential opportunities for you to have this maintenance shed either be in the existing one or maybe be placed somewhere differently closer to the existing building. If you look at what is being built, and if, according to Mr. Dean, there is a wetland buffer currently between the existing maintenance shed, that means already naturally those properties have more buffer than what we're going to be given for the driveway that they're asking to have built. Additionally, that if you look at the flow from Dayton Parkway down 117th, the natural path, if that is the only driveway, is to now come down Polaris Lane. We have a lot of little kids in that neighborhood that go up the cul-de-sac. They come down on their bikes. You're asking about taking, potential commercial vehicles through a residential area now that would have now naturally just gone down the regular road. So my ask is to support my neighbors. Both Eric and Bruce have done a lot of research about this, and to not approve the building of this, and do consider that there could be another location, and maybe even the existing location. Because if you look at the existing location, which I can see clearly from my front porch, there's this big mound, this big hill, right, that's probably was built to basically mask the maintenance shed. And there seems to be a lot of land, and even from a driveway perspective, if you were to do an aerial view, because I did this, you have a parking lot that, for one, could be widened because it's not going to touch the green space. You also have the green space between there and the existing maintenance shed. There's a lot of land over there that is not in use right now that could be considered, that would bring that maintenance shed closer to the green as Mr. Dean would like, but also offer additional parking over there if it's done well. So I would just ask that, you take a look at that. The parking lot could do some repairs. It could maybe have some restriping or some other ways in order to provide more parking spaces. There's an existing, some type of maintenance thing at the end of the parking. If that goes away, does that also extend additional parking spaces? I'm not opposed to the golf course. I bought because the golf course is there. I bought because there is the Sundance Entertainment Center. I have been a Dayton resident since 2016, both in Sundance Woods, River Hills, and now I made my home in Brayburn Trails for the very reason to have a beautiful yard and to have a gorgeous view that will now not have that natural darkness at night. So we're going to be, talking about light issues that are going to be there that were not there before. So simply just ask, respectfully that you deny this. And I believe there is a really good alternative solution if we just put our minds to it. Thank you.
Thank you.
James Warren, 1155 Polaris Lane. Next door neighbor to Bruce. All the same things everyone's been saying, but I kind of want to make sure we get back to kind of the point of what the commission's looking at, which is we're trying to come up with better design, make sure we have a very well-designed community. The idea of the PR district, right, public recreational, is to help keep the public lands public, or meaning hold on to our green spaces, have those locations for people to get out and enjoy nature. One of the other things with that is when development is tied with that, it's supposed to be neat, tidy. It tries to be condensed. This is expanding across the site, which is exactly what you don't want to do with the development, and specifically commercial type development, which is what this is. It's a commercial accessory building in support of a commercial business that just happens to be on a golf course. The bowling alley, that's another business. When you start to tack it up, this is more, or tack it all together, this is more an entertainment zone or district falling under the PR. At that point, really, this building should be tied in and connected with that development. That's proper development. That's what we do in a downtown district. We should impose those same things here. Thank you.
Thank you.
We do need a motion.
To table the public hearing.
Table.
I assume there's no one else sitting in the public that would want to speak about this tonight? Going once, going twice?
Just to
If
table.
not, I'll make a motion to table the public hearing till, is it the next meeting that we're going to take this up? Or I don't know when the next
Next month.
month.
I do have a couple of questions for planning commission.
This is just the public hearing, though. We're just tabling the
Sure.
public hearing with
Okay.
this motion. That way we can open it back up. So we have a motion.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second to table the public hearing till next month. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? The public hearing has been tabled. Now, I think it'd be a good time to have a little deliberation. John, you've got some questions.
I'm going to start with an easy question. So, all the discussion that we've had so far tonight has been about the maintenance shed. Is there any questions about the lots? Okay.
I'm generally in support of it. I don't think it's all that different.
Let me ask it this way, and if there was no change to the, well, I guess we'd need to consult the attorney, but if there's no change to the lots, we wouldn't. No, if there would have been.
Oh.
No changes to lots, this wouldn't have even come before us.
Correct. It would just be a final plan that would go to the city council.
So that's something, that's kind of a big deal.
It's telling also.
Yep. And if the applicant would have been able to build the maintenance shed, presuming it was there, I know I've looked at the documents, I've seen it in some and not in others, as John alluded to, it was in the documents, so. I have no issue with the change in lots as proposed. I'll say it that way.
I agree. I mean, you're decreasing the number of lots. I think that helps with density issues and things like that I think are critical for this area. So I agree that I have no issues with the lot changes.
Anyone else want to chime in on that?
No, I don't have a problem with that. I'll just make one comment to Tom that I've made to him in previous times. This particular small development has 7 corner lots. And I'm going to encourage you every time to make those corner lots look like corner lots and put extra windows in or something to dress up the house so it's more inviting on the corner. I feel like it really helps the neighborhood. It's a small thing, but, otherwise, on the main road, you got 3 houses that are all corner plots, plus the one that's already there, and it's all just blank vinyl walls. So if we're concerned about blank walls, we get them in these neighborhoods when we don't look at a corner lot as a corner lot. So,
They're a little bit more custom.
yeah,
So.
yeah, great.
Being that the commission is tabling this till next month, is there anything, questions that you have for Tom that he can work on before you meet again?
I think if you pull up the slide where that it shows what's being asked for a PUD amendment. I'd just like to give my feedback, and so the applicant can know, because when they come back, if they have a chance to make changes, whether other commissioners agree or the council, provides their feedback. That's why I guess I'd like to provide my feedback on those variances, because maybe it results in something better. The first one, I'll just say I don't have a huge issue with the Hart. And by the way, this is all assuming, we're waiting on attorneys to come back with understanding what's going on here. I don't see a big issue with the reduced driveway setback. The building setback, I would prefer to be 50 feet. And I understand there's a grading issue, but I would prefer it 50 feet, and as well as the doors staying on the south side of the building. I don't have a problem with the other 3 items either. So that's my thoughts.
I think with regards to the building setback, that having the primary function of the building on the south side is imperative to the neighbors. If this does happen, we want that activity on that south side. So if it can't be 50 feet, but it can be more than 25, I don't know. It's just more landscape buffer on the north side of it or something, but.
I know a lot of people keep saying that maybe we can help redesign it. That's really not our job. Our job is to approve or deny what's in front of us. We can give suggestions, but there's infinite possibilities here, so I don't want to. But, with all the design features, it even crossed my mind that he could have a sod roof and build it right into the hill. You already got a 8-foot retaining wall.
Yeah, I guess I'll just state that I think that it's going to be critical what the city attorney comes back with. I think it's going to change my outlook on this particular maintenance building and its location, depending on what the city attorney comes back with. So so I'll hold all my concerns or comments until next month after we get that from the city attorney. I think it'll be vastly different depending on what that ruling is. So.
I am diametrically opposed to that building being in that site, period. My opinion has not changed since the first time it was brought before us. I don't think it belongs there. I don't think it fits with our ordinances there. The City Council now is looking at commercial properties and what kind of setbacks we should have between residential properties, and I think that's got to come into play. I'm not in favor of the building. I'm not in favor of granting any kind of variance on a driveway if, in fact, the building gets put there. Again, like Greg says, that it's a lot of where we go with this is dependent on what the attorney says are our legal options here. If the attorney comes back and tells us that we don't have the ability to tell them they can't put that building there because of some poor decision that was made prior to any of us sitting in any of these chairs, and probably maybe half of the council that's currently there, I mean, I guess you have to live with that, I guess. It's really unfortunate if that happens, but I think there are other places on this property that building could be built. I think there are other open spaces on that property adjacent to the bowling alley, adjacent to the current maintenance shop that could be utilized for more parking if the that the golf course or the entertainment center or the bowling alley needs. I don't think that burden should be put on the people of Brayburn. I just don't. That's just my opinion.
The only other thing I would put out there is that I think we have to be careful with using the word variance. There is no variance application here. You don't have to abide by the state statute or the city code requirements for granting a variance. The PUD gives the flexibility to the ordinance through the PUD process. So we should focus on the PUD. I think it's better to use the words like flexibility to the code rather than variance, because those are two completely different things in a legal sense as well. So we should just be careful with how we address that. But yeah, I mean, I agree that the location is not the best as it is right now in relation to everybody's concerns. But I think we would be handcuffed if there's a decision by the city attorney that this has already been approved in this area. So I'll leave it at that. Go forward.
John, one of the things that I've been thinking about, can you go back, I believe it's back one slide, with the, where it's got the PUDs on it, the original PUD, yeah. So these are the original for the entire.
From 2018, for
the entire Sundance project. And so, one of the things that we're looking at too, and have to consider, right, this is the entire project, not just the 12th edition.
Correct.
That this PUD was granted for. So, all, I don't know, Tom, what's 400, 600 homes?
550.
Yeah, 550 homes. And so, we're talking about this 12th edition here, but we have to take in context that the PUD was granted for all of this land and not just this corner. And it's, right, it comes down to this corner and the variance, and Tom could build what was granted at that point without having to go through this. You know, in my mind of keeping Sundance, and it was stated earlier by one of the residents, I mean, I was struggling with this when we were going through the previous item. You know, public recreation makes sense when we talk parks and schools and city hall, but when it's a golf course, and I love the golf course being there, but is that really public? It's not owned by the city, it's owned by an individual. It's not owned by the public per se. And so I was struggling with that. This is really an entertainment district, and I think there is a public benefit to increasing the parking size and allowing them to have more parking, to host events for our city, to host neighbors and residents and give them a place to go that's not in any of our bordering cities. So I think there is a public benefit here that is not listed up there. Well, it's kind of listed up there under number 2 of keeping the clubhouse and the restaurant. And, so that's one of the things I wanted to point out, that this was for the overall, and this change actually helps increase that bullet point number 2. And so that's kind of where my head's at right now. I agree with what's been said about needing to consult the attorney and figure out that piece as well.
I think there's still risk even no matter what the attorney says, partially
Understood.
because the applicant has already started the redesign expenditures on the golf course. And again, I don't love where the building's at, but in fact, I don't like it at all. But the applicant's already spent money on redesigning the course with an idea of what was approved, so I think there's risk no matter what.
Any more feedback you need, John? I know you had maybe some more questions.
No, and again, I think Tom's intent, if I can speak for him, you know, wherever the council ends up deciding is to work on the location to build the new maintenance building as quickly as possible. So if there's something, design related that can help him kind of speed up that process, like this is the time to have input. So, there's a suggestion of, windows on the backside or a sod roof or something. And
Again, I think it's going to
Those are
determine
suggestions.
on what the city attorney says, because I'll be frank, if the city attorney says there's no actual approval of the location in the proposed location is tonight, I don't think this planning commission would approve its current location as it sits today. That's my opinion on what I've been hearing up here. It'd be a hard
I think there's still
recommendation of
risks that
approval.
I would like to know a little bit more about from the applicant now, about what they've actually done with the golf course redesign, because there's real risk there that, I don't.
I agree.
Whatever attorney says, I
And
also
that's-
know attorneys like to disagree, and that's why you end up in the courtroom.
Exactly. So, that's the thing. Making an assumption one way or the other gets people in trouble, right? So, and it's not for us to determine. Our determination is whether or not that specific location of the maintenance shed was approved. And then we could go from there. Because I think design would be a lot different if it's going to be in its proposed location as we see it tonight, or in a different location on the golf course. I would have different input to Tom as far as what that maintenance shed should look like.
Yeah, with my feedback, I was just operating under the assumption that it's going to be here, because if it ends up being somewhere else, it's a completely different discussion.
Correct.
I'm good.
All right. We need a motion to table the item now.
I'll make a motion to table the item.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to table this item. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Item is tabled until August. All right, next item on our agenda, item 8C, adopting a 6-month interim ordinance moratorium related to site plan review.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is I'm going to call it kind of a continuation of a discussion from previous meetings. As a commission probably remembers, in recent months, we had a concept plan from Oppidan that was proposing an industrial building next to the Dayton Mobile Home Park. And then we also had a proposal for an assisted living center off of Balsam that was next to single-family homes. During both of those discussions at the Planning Commission level and the City Council level, there were public comments or oppositions that the project is too close to my house. Whatever that is, if maybe there wasn't enough screening or there wasn't enough distance, but there just wasn't enough buffer. And so the council had suggested that we consider a moratorium on the approval of site plans for non-residential projects. So the interim ordinance, or otherwise known as a moratorium, would be a 6-month, I'd call it a prohibition for the acceptance of site plan reviews for non-residential projects from August 1st through January 31st. So this would give an opportunity for staff to work on an ordinance amendment or kind of a study of what is the appropriate distance between residential and non-residential. Similar to the discussion that we just had on Sundance Greens 12, it all depends on the location. There's probably not a black and white answer that's going to best fit every project. So I don't know, we can do a study. I don't think we'll come up with a good answer. Projects that this would impact, so we have a city map. The green dots are projects that we're anticipating will be submitted prior to August 1st. So this includes the DDL property, which is proposing industrial, as well as the Oppidan industrial project, which is next to the mobile home park. So again, the Oppidan project is one of the projects that precipitated the discussion or the consideration for a moratorium. Projects that we anticipate would be impacted by a moratorium on site plan review We have the Dayton EDA property, so as the Planning Commission is probably aware, the city owns property off of Dayton Parkway, which we are marketing for sale, probably for some kind of either industrial or commercial use. Anyone who's buying that would not be able to apply for a site plan review for 6 months. Second item is Dayton Creek Edition, so this is in southwest Dayton. The owner of that is requesting that be excluded from the moratorium, should a moratorium be adopted. And then we have the Parkway Neighborhood Clubhouse. So the Parkway Neighborhood has also applied for an amendment to their preliminary plat. This is a large apartment project, but it does include a clubhouse that is not necessarily a residential use and would be subject to the site plan review. So, questions?
I'm just looking at the map, and I know we've done this before. Could we exclude every property south of 81?
You have a lot of flexibility.
I mean, with the moratorium, we could do that.
I was under the impression that that was going to be the present, that.
Because Parkway Neighborhood Clubhouse affects the apartments.
Yeah.
The EDA properties in between 94 and 81. And then the other one that's asking to be excluded is south as well. And we don't have much residential in that area anyways.
Yeah. Well, the other part of this, and this was the fact that we wanted to back down on some of our activity, given that Hayden left.
Yep.
Just capacity issues.
Yeah.
So the other alternative is obviously consultants, right?
Well,
Yeah.
I think we're talking about two different issues. So this is specific to site plan in relation to the question of what kind of a buffer should there be between residential.
That's where I'm a little confused here, because it started going
Yep.
different directions.
Yep. I will, the commission, the council can do whatever it wants. So if, I'm just going to say generally the area south or west of County Road 81 is excluded from the moratorium. That is all of the anticipated construction in 2026, or at least planning cases. So the what's left over probably isn't going to change anything.
So why do you need a
So
moratorium then?
why have a moratorium?
Yeah.
Just to be clear, we are talking about a moratorium on,
Site plan review.
but it's right, so that's all site plans. It has nothing to do with residential
Non-residential.
versus non-residential uses.
Site plan, let's see, site plan review, it is not applicable to residential.
Even
Yeah, so for-
multifamily?
Well,
Or is multifamily considered commercial at that point?
building code is considered commercial. Zoning, we do look at it as
Residential zone.
Yeah.
I'm just generally nervous about it, because you don't know who's gonna come next and whether it's a great project, and I don't love the message we're sending.
The other thing to consider is that, and I've said this before, this is a problem every single city has as far as how you create that buffer between competing uses. If you find, if we do this moratorium and you find that silver bullet solution, hold on to that and sell it. You will solve your water issue, you will solve your roundabout issues. I mean, it's going to be, I think, a futile effort to do this without, I mean, we could all think about it, and we don't need a moratorium on it, and then you wouldn't have to worry about what if the next development comes in that we really want, that we didn't know about, comes in tomorrow, and now we can't do anything for 6 months.
Is the one senior housing project still in the works? Would that be subject to it in,
Off of Balsam?
Yes.
Are we talking about? No, because those are approved.
They're approved.
they're approved, so Oppiden's never got approved yet?
Correct.
And so to me, I'm less concerned about the Oppiden one largely because it needs zoning changes. So if people don't want this and want to delay it, deny the zoning change.
Oppiden has changed their plan. The building is farther away from the mobile home park.
That's why I hate to have a moratorium on it. I'd rather let things happen and council and planning commission needs to make decisions on whether that's appropriate or not.
Didn't the applicant also need a comp plan amendment?
Yes.
They're not going to get it, I don't think. There was 3 votes. There was 2 votes against this thing, so I would be surprised if they get it, but, I mean, that's another point to
Based on
consider.
the concept plan, yes.
And then just, if a moratorium were imposed, would the city consult out with a planning firm to look at this? Or would you do it in-house, or what's the study look like?
It's all going to depend on timing and other projects related. So with the study, really, I'm trying to think what the approach is going to be, is trying to, I'm going to say, take an inventory of areas in Dayton where you have residential versus non-residential. What are the setbacks, and are those appropriate for those uses or not? It's very subjective. You can have one person that says that's fine and someone else that says no. And then it's really going to be dependent on what the commission and the council wants to do with that.
Was there a driving point from the council of wanting this potentially moratorium that we're missing here that you can?
Concern that there would be another application that fits into here. But I'm kind of confused because I thought we had, I thought there wasn't, the other reason was bandwidth, that you guys simply were strapped.
That's more with the next moratorium discussion, not with the site plan. So the site plan discussion, like the council brought this up some time ago.
All right. So what would that moratorium be on? Just preliminaries?
No, site plan review.
This one's site plan.
This
The
is
other
site
one's
plan
preliminary
review.
plats, that's
Correct.
all about staff bandwidth.
Correct. So I'm going to say really the trigger with this one is the assisted living center that's off of Balsam. And so in that case, within that zoning district, there's a 20-foot rear setback for buildings and a 5-foot setback for parking. That project backs up to single-family homes. So the issue there was, you got 5 feet of landscape buffer between the property line and parking lot, and only 20 feet between the rear property line and the building. The council really didn't feel like that was enough.
So in retrospect, our mixed-use district there, we should have just said a CUP is required when we approved it, instead of saying a CUP on 1 story and above. Or, excuse me, more than 1 story, yes. Because the issue is the abutting residential, even with the height.
So,
go ahead.
well, and maybe that's I'm spitballing here to help solve the issue to Jeff's point is maybe we just require CUPs on properties that abut residential. And that allows us to have some flexibility in what it is going in there. I don't know if there's a way to draft it that it's mainly on the setback, that is why we're doing it, but it's a very different use, or it could be a very different use and want a different setback or type of building.
I think we still need guidelines on what that setback is, because owners and designers look at city ordinances to set up their projects, and they go a long time before they come to us, and then all of a sudden we say, no, you need 100 feet, and they thought it was only 50. Right, so I mean, we still need guidelines, we can't just leave it blank.
Understood.
If you pick a number, you're kind of pigeonholing yourself in there depending on, I think that the real variable here is what kind of operation is going to go in there, right?
Yeah.
So if you have your flexibility so you can vary that distance somewhat, right now, we're at a ridiculous point, with the current regulations that we have, right? It's just way too dang close. I mean, that's why we ended up in these discussions in the first place.
In the general mixed-use district.
Yes. Yeah. So if you pigeonhole yourself into a specific number, then what if some business comes along that is absolutely crazy and it's going to cause all kinds of havoc in a neighborhood, and that number doesn't fit them? So I don't know how you pick a number not knowing what the applicant wants to put on the property to start with.
I don't know if it's quite as dire because, for example, outdoor storage, as it exceeds a certain amount, already requires a CUP. So when you think of uses that might require more of a setback, we already have a CUP mechanism there.
And the CUP would vary depending on what the applicant was going to put on the property, right?
Right, but for the most part, if it's in the building, we don't have issues. The issue might be the building's too close to the property line. So, you know what I mean? Outdoor storage is my big concern, or noise, everything associated with outdoor stuff when you're abutting a residential district, and that already, yeah.
Well, at some point too, if you get too big of a setback now, the property could become unbuildable.
Yeah.
Right? So, I mean, you
The
still have to
Ogden
balance
site
that,
is-
so
could
then.
easily be unbuildable.
Do we just identify what is a reasonable buffer zone for landscaping or berm? Is it 20 feet that you need to get enough, 2 or 3 rows of trees that create a solid wall as opposed to a single row, and that's what it is, or something, right? Like, we can't just say it's at 50 feet because it's not going to work for a lot of properties, and then, you might have a building that only has 3 employees working out of it, and it's not that big of a deal.
So are we doing the study right now, then are we? What if we should-
I just say with the moratorium too, I'm more used to seeing a zoning code where, and Jeff, maybe you've read enough too, and John, or like the setback when you, like say you're an industrial zone district, there's a specific setback in that industrial zone district if you happen to abut a residential district. And so that's where I typically see it, because then people like Paul's saying, site designers, planners, they see it. And they have to figure it out, so.
Or there might be specific screening requirements if you abut residential.
Right.
Or screening to
Right.
the public rights of way or whatever it might be, yeah. So zoning codes are written in a way to help ease that transition, but again, there's no silver bullet.
Right. And I guess I'm saying that too, because I liked Peter's idea at first, but then I was like, that's just too broad, to just say every residential, or every non-residential use residential requires a CUP, because that's pretty broad. So back to the moratorium, I guess. There's reasons why I think moratoriums should be put in place. I just don't love this reason. I'd rather us figure it out and not potentially pigeonhole something coming in. I guess that's my opinion.
John, what would you anticipate happening in these 6 months if we did do a moratorium?
We're going to do study and have more discussion on what is the silver bullet and
What the right number might be?
Yeah, and I don't think we'll find it.
No, there's not going to be a perfect number.
And it's got to be better than what we have now, which is, to me, is totally unworkable.
Sure, but is that, it's, if we go from 20 feet to 40 feet, is that enough? It's going to
That's
depend
the
on
whole
the
issue.
site.
I guess it would depend on what was going to get placed in there.
But Keith I don't think I'm wrong here, but generally that's not how the zoning codes work, meaning the zoning code says a bunch of permitted uses, and then the zoning code says, here's your setback if you abut non-residential and residential, and so we don't have as much control over all the individual uses. I understand where you'd want it, but we don't have that control.
The lack of control is what got us into this discussion in the first place.
No, I think it was the lack of poor planning. When they designed the mixed use on Balsam Lane and came up with that code, they never thought it through, and they put a code in place that's basically saying everything's going to get redeveloped because it ignored half the uses along that area that are still there.
Yep.
And so to me, that's what got us in trouble on that one. And I don't think this is all too common. Obviously, we got 3 of them, and I get it. They're controversial. I don't like it. But it's not all that common that I just don't know if a moratorium is really necessary. Like, I think we can figure it out.
If the commission is thinking of, I'm just putting words in your mouth, of adopting a moratorium and excluding, I'll just say Southwest Dayton, that really doesn't impact anyone else that we're anticipating. It'd be easier to just do the study and not have a moratorium. That's where I'm moving. Because I see only one property on there, and I don't even see a property on there that is really affected. You mean where residential against non-res?
Yeah.
For the anticipated impact, the red dots.
Yep.
It's a little difficult. So like Dayton Creek Edition, for example.
Dayton Creek, explain that one to me, because the other two I don't see impacting the residential to commercial or industrial.
So Dayton Park, no, I'm sorry, Parkway neighborhood, the impact is the clubhouse. The clubhouse, I don't think is probably a significant impact. If that has to wait 6 months, it waits 6 months.
The clubhouse is just part of the development to serve the apartment unit
Yes.
owners?
Yep.
Why, I don't understand why that would impact anything. I really don't.
I'm calling it a non-residential structure.
It's an accessory use to residential.
But it's no different than a HOA wanting to put up a pool and pool
Yeah.
house.
Is it a separate structure?
Yeah.
From the, okay.
It's,
Yeah, it's a.
but it's not, that's
I'm
the
just
thing.
saying,
though,
I
is
see
it-
apartment
it's-
buildings everywhere with clubhouses, and I
it's-
think if we.
It's
if
not
we-
zoned differently, is it?
No, that's my whole point.
So it's not in a different
It's
zoning
PUD,
district.
though. It's PUD.
It's PUD.
Okay.
So, okay,
Great. I mean, I
EDA
guess I'll just.
property is not adjacent to residential, but it would require a site plan. The Dayton Creek addition, that's also intended to be mixed use. I don't know if that's going to come in as a residential project or a commercial project, but it is adjacent to residential use in Rogers.
Are you calling apartments residential or non-residential?
I'm going to call it residential.
So,
See, that's where there's a big disconnect there, so I think that we have a lot of discussion ahead of us.
so I think, John, I see your point of
Yeah.
the Dayton Creek being adjacent to the Rogers residential in proximity, but there is a
Road.
Brockton
Road,
Lane
yeah. Yep.
County Highway there that to me that's separation.
That negates any kind of.
That negates any buffer we could put
Right.
in.
And not that I'm trying to ever do anything bad against any of our neighboring cities, but if it makes sense to us, I'm not worried about across the border. If
Well,
it makes sense to us,
but-
I'm not trying to purposely do anything.
But I would say the same thing on Fernbrook. I mean, I would say the same thing on Fernbrook that, if we have it zoned for a certain district already, it's already zoned that way, and
Yes.
we have to look at the setbacks.
Do we think a moratorium is
I
necessary?
don't think so.
So that's, I would make I'll just make a motion.
We do have a public hearing on this.
Oh, it is a public, okay.
So,
Before we get to that point, I have one more question for John. You say you have 3 anticipated direct impacts, unless we exclude south of 81.
Yeah, you can do that.
Right. But how do we know that there won't be another little red bullet up there a month from now, or 2 months from now, or
no
3
idea.
months from now? We don't, right?
Right.
Nope.
So the reason that you would do the moratorium is that if those come up, they wouldn't be dealt with until we figure out what the heck direction we're going to go, right?
Correct.
That's the reason you do that. That's the only reason I'd be in favor of doing the moratorium. Because otherwise, I always look on the worst-case scenario. I'm a union negotiator, right? If it's going to happen, it will happen. I've seen it, 40 years of experience, right? I don't want us to sit here and have 4, 5, 6, 7 of those all pop up in the next 6 months, and us still be all sitting here not knowing what the heck we want to do with the whole situation. I think we need to figure out the direction we want to go, the best-case scenario for the city of Dayton, and then move ahead with that. I'm in favor of the moratorium.
all right, with that, I'm going to open the public hearing at 9 PM. If anyone would like to speak on this moratorium?
And I've forgotten to mention this, but we have nobody online.
Okay. I'm going to close the public hearing on this one. And Keith, that's kind of, to your point that you were making that's kind of why I suggested south of 81, we have mostly commercial and mixed use in industrial, in our plan. And that also gets to Darren's point of if something great comes in, we want to see it.
Yeah, I don't have a problem excluding those from the moratorium.
South of
It'll be part
81
of whatever
or
motion I would
west
make, yes.
81.
Yeah.
And the moratorium doesn't have to last 6 months.
Right.
Well, the council has the ability to
It
shorten
can
the
last 6
moratorium.
months.
If something comes up that's of dire need to the city, and the council thinks that we should jump on it, then they have the ability to do that,
Correct.
so.
Now, if we decide to not do or recommend not doing a moratorium, I feel like we should provide some guidance on how we think we can get to the solution in a quick manner. Could we have this solved by September and not have to worry about it into fall?
I think it could be a tough ask, because part of the solution is, do we hit every single zoning code to address it? Or do you, because I think that's the best route, but I don't, meaning I'd prefer to have the setback if you're in industrial and you're abutting a residential, it's called out. Likewise with the big commercial districts. And so really it's touching every code, but maybe it's as simple as just agreeing on a number.
So what is the process? Is it John doing more work and staying
Yes.
late nights? Is it him hiring a consultant? Is it a work session between us and council? Like, what is the process to come to this so we know what the anticipated schedule is, so we can decide? Because I think
Is the answer yes?
What would we like to see to make a decision?
Yeah, like the decision of moratorium and no moratorium, to me, depends on what is the process to come to this decision.
I mean, if I were to be making a decision, I'd, like on setback recommendations, I'd want to know a little bit about what other communities are doing. By zoning codes. That's probably the biggest thing, because after that, it's now a subjective call.
Yeah, if the council wants a moratorium, they're gonna put it on staff to figure it out. And if staff says we need to consult with this to figure this out, then maybe that's the route they need to take.
Sure.
So
the approach I would do is trying to define what the problem is. And so like looking at the assisted living project isn't built, so
It's approved.
It's approved.
So it's done.
Yep.
And there's no other vacant lots up there abutting residential besides the one next to the rain tree, but the rain
Yeah.
tree would have to be redeveloped for that to happen.
Yes.
And we know what we want that to be.
Right. Right, and it's not getting redeveloped in the next 6 months,
Correct.
so.
Well, hopefully.
We can look at when we had the Oppidan project that was here, that we had a number of residents in the mobile home park that complained about noise associated with the MTL property. So we can look at that. What is the setback? What is the appearance? How could we have done this better? And is that whatever we would have done better, is that applicable to the next project?
I think that's a poor example for what we're trying to accomplish, that site.
No,
At some
but
point in
it's
time,
that-
council's gonna have to make a decision on that site,
Mhm.
and it's about land use and comp plan.
For
And so-
the Oppidan, you mean?
For the
Yeah.
Oppidan site. So if they don't want industrial there, they don't have to approve it, or we don't have to recommend to approve it. So to me, I think that site's so unique because, and I'm assuming this code's gonna go the other direction too. So that site's already surrounded by industrial, that if someone came in with a residential development, guess what? They just lost a bunch, and I'm not saying it's wrong, but they just lost a bunch of land area too, because it goes both ways, the
Right.
setbacks. It's not one way. And so when you have sites like that, I just think they're poor examples. A tough decision just needs to be made.
So,
The other land is by the DDL site, but that's already need comp plan amendments and a bunch of stuff, so it's like, I'm not too concerned about that. That's where I keep going back to, I don't see the point of a moratorium. I just think it sends the wrong message. I don't think it's gonna matter. We still need to solve the issue, but.
Sure.
Agree.
I would think, and maybe it was Paul's point of, if we decide to do the moratorium or not, we need to tell staff and council, what we want out of this, and are we committed to doing some workshops and things like that to get this resolved relatively quick.
I think that should be with or without a moratorium if it's that big a deal.
And
It's just.
with the moratorium gives us a little bit more time to do it. Without the moratorium, I think we owe it to resolve this by, I'd say, mid-September, by our September meeting.
I'll give us more time, but not much.
Even with a moratorium, that could still happen.
It could.
It doesn't put the door shut and weld it. I mean.
No, because
the
if you
council
solve
can
it in
open the
September,
door,
then
We
you
can,
whatever they
take
we
want.
can
moratorium
open the
off, yeah.
moratorium open
Yeah.
the moratorium after, it just,
But it does give,
the moratorium gives us a concrete that we're not accepting any.
right, it does give some direction to people
love
that may
that
be
message.
thinking of building something in the city.
What the
But that's an
moratorium will
issue.
do is it's going to drive developers to apply for projects, we'll say on July 31st versus August 1st.
So it could give you more work to do on top of trying to solve this.
I don't see the benefit of it, so I've spoken off all this. Once there's a clear majority, I guess we can entertain a motion, or we can enter. I'm not gonna make a motion if I'm not in the majority, so.
I would support no moratorium and just do whatever we can to support staff to come to a resolution quickly. And if that means
I
a
agree
work
with that.
session or two, I'd be up for that.
I don't think that gets us any place pretty farther than we are, sitting in the snowbank with our wheels spinning.
No, but we're identifying that we need to do something like urgently, right? Like, we're saying September, maybe it's October meeting, because you've resolved it, you know, over the course of the next month and a half.
We knew
It's
that.
discussed.
We knew that 6 months ago.
Well, no, but it takes time, right? And so now we're here saying we need to do something. We're either going to do a moratorium to talk about it, or we're just going to say we're doing it. And we're going to talk about it, we're going to set a deadline and take care of it.
And I've spent enough time looking at the zoning map and comp plan that I just don't see where the other issues are. Maybe it ends up being in the old village, but, I mean, like, for example, the EDA's project, that's abutting resident, well, there's roads, right?
Well, I think that
There's
what we're
roads.
doing is we're solving a problem for when the city expands and Dayton Parkway goes up. and
Absolutely.
goes into
Yes,
Zanzibar,
that's
and
the
we
problem
create a
what
new
we're solving.
commercial areas.
Yes.
And, you know, we're thinking of how
Correct.
that's going to impact, right? So, yeah, there might not be that many properties right now, but
Yeah,
there's gonna be more
I'm not saying we
impacts.
shouldn't get on it.
Yeah,
I'm just
there's
saying
gonna
I
be
don't see
more.
the urgency
But
that
those
requires
aren't,
a
yeah,
moratorium.
those aren't this year. Yeah.
So, John, we either need a motion to adopt or deny.
Or change the language. So, for example, if the commission wanted to adopt a moratorium but exclude certain parts of it or change the dates of it, you have that option.
I'm gonna make a motion to deny approving a moratorium on site plan reviews.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second to deny the moratorium for site plan reviews. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
No. Motion passes 3-2. And I think mine is mainly, I'm okay with the stuff south of 81 for direction of the council. I think there's other things that may pop up that we're not aware of that may give us some time to really get the silver bullet.
And if we really wanted to do it right, we'd be directing staff to do land use plan changes, but we've been putting that off to do the 2050 plan forever. And I'm talking
Right.
south of, by the DDL property and all that stuff where we know we have to address it.
Sure.
Because to me, that's what I'd rather have staff working on. That's why I'm not in favor of moratoriums. I'd rather focus on that.
Next
All
moratorium.
right,
Next moratorium.
8D.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So 8D, this is a public hearing to adopt a 6-month interim ordinance or moratorium related to preliminary plat. So similarly, this, the 6 months would take effect August 1st through January 31st, 2027. It would prohibit the city from accepting preliminary plats citywide. So anything that requires a preliminary plat. It would not be applicable to concept plans or final plats or any preliminary plat application that is submitted prior to August 1st. Okay, so the impacts. So again, green is projects that are anticipated to be submitted prior to August 1st, and red are impacted projects. So The impacted projects, again, include the Dayton EDA property off of Dayton Parkway, Dayton Creek Addition, and the Dubay Lake Preserve north of 117th. So projects that are coming in, so Parkway neighborhood was submitted last week, maybe it was this week. We have the Stensley property, which is proposed townhomes, the DDL property that will be industrial, and then the Oppidan property, which will be industrial also. The intent of this is I'm saying we, but I'm the only one that's here. I've got more work than I can handle, and so one of the ideas of trying to relieve some of the work pressures is to essentially pause development applications coming in. So the effect on that is we have a lot of projects that are going to be coming in pretty quickly to avoid the moratorium. The alternative to do that, to having a moratorium, is to outsource more work, which we can do regardless. It's just not something that we generally do as practice. The way this is kind of trying to describe how we work within the community development department. So when a project comes in, so Tom's still here in the audience, so I'll use him as a guinea pig here. So when Tom submits an application, there's an application fee in a large escrow, and that escrow is used to reimburse the city for our staff time as well as consultant time. That's fairly simple to outsource to a consultant, say this is your project, you're going to manage it. When we have projects that are fairly, where we're predicting there's going to be controversy or if there's a lot of complicated history, that's going to involve a lot of staff time no matter who's managing it, whether it's myself or a consultant. It's easier if we just do it internally as staff. It's not necessarily a time saver to outsource it. For any city-initiated project, we have to do that internally mostly. I do have a budget for consultants to do what I call unpredicted studies, but it's a small budget that I'm pretty, I don't like to spend it if I don't have to. So again, kind of to try to summarize it, the overall intent of this moratorium is to essentially pause development applications and give us a little bit of time to catch up on other projects that, whether it's the commissioner or the council, has given us direction to do. But we can also, the alternative to that is that we can outsource some projects too. I don't think a moratorium will necessarily solve all of my time problems. I don't know what will, but.
What's the city's long-term plan on? Is there a plan to replace Hayden as a city employee? You've
Yes.
lost a component of
Yep.
the community development department that surely helped out in years past. So there's a budget there for some position, if it's a consultant or if it's full-time. What's the direction of the city in replacing that position
So
on a
within
permanent basis?
community development, it's myself, and then we'd had Hayden Stensgaard, who took another position back in, I think it was March. We have a consultant that is filling in to do permit review. That expense is much higher than what it is for an in-house planner, and so they are handling permit review and some of the general inquiries from the public, but all the planning cases falls on me essentially. We are interviewing to replace that position, so hopefully we'll have someone fairly soon. We also have it within our preliminary budget for 2027 to hire a third planner. So once we have a third planner, now we're pretty staffed up. Looking forward into 2027, we also have the comp plan coming up, and that will consume quite a bit of time.
Is the city consulting out for that work?
Yes, but I would anticipate that there's quite a bit of it that we're going to handle in-house.
Yeah, I think I'd be all in favor of an ordinance or the moratorium, just to save some sanity and time for the current staff, with the idea that staffing will occur here shortly to fill in that position, and then in the future to help with future plans coming in. Dayton's certainly a developing city. A lot of work is coming in. That I could imagine the work that that you, John, are doing to fill all those roles as one person. So I am sympathetic of that. I'd be in favor of the moratorium to help ease some of those restraints.
I had to show this slide because that was just funny. So, in trying to, in putting this together and trying to figure out, okay, what would we do, or what would I do if I had more time? So, part of the response I think the commission is aware, we did a public opinion survey. It came back of what department. I don't want to call it departments, but really roles within the city have a favorable or unfavorable rating. And city planning was, at the bottom, only better than city drinking water, which we fixed.
That should be your slogan for your department, only better than city drinking water.
And when this was presented to the council, and Peter Leatherman, who conducted the survey, was saying, this isn't necessarily a reflection of city staff. It's more of just the problem of Dayton has a lot going on. We don't have the right solution for everything. And so kind of the question in the moratorium, this does allow us to kind of take a step back and figure out, okay, what isn't working and why, and is it possible to fix it, and what are some of the solutions? So buffering as an example.
I don't like moratoriums, as you guys know. And I think it actually is going to decrease the city planning rating if you put a moratorium. But, I understand the need, and you have my complete empathy, John, and I hope that council would even consider bumping up that second city planner position. I get it, maybe money's tight and it's not budgeted for, but the issue is people do turn over. People leave. And having one extra city planner it's biting us now, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, John, but there's enough work today for 2 additional planners.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Yeah. And so to me, that's more of a solution. And I just, when you're putting a moratorium on preliminary plats, I want the market to guide us, and it seems like we're fighting the market. And I just always struggled that with, and I think that's the impression in the external community, that when people look at Dayton, I don't care if it's residents or developers, they both kind of have the same opinion, and that some people like that Dayton's maybe viewed as anti-development. I get it, but I think that's the general impression, and I just think that if this is the situation and we're in, unfortunately we need to commit to more consultants or hire 2 planners. So I'm against the moratorium. I understand the benefit it would do for staff, but I think there's better solutions than sending the message or rushing everything through. When you rush stuff through, there's chances too that we miss stuff. And we miss stuff because the applicant missed it, because they rushed it through.
Sure.
Do you have any?
I'm sorry?
Any more on your presentation?
No.
All right. With that, this is a public hearing. It is 9:19. I'm going to open the public hearing.
Hi, Tom Dean, 11261 Fernbrook. I think you're going to look at me and say I'm going to be against a moratorium, and I'm not necessarily saying that. I understand planning. I'm going to look. We did the first. We had the final plat at first at DCM Farms, second, and that was in March, and we were just about the end of June before we got a developers agreement. I just I have Doobie Lake. I was in here with the concept plan, and we're not going to be here before end of July. Right? It's not going to come in, and we're going to have to postpone it, and that's just how it goes, right? Timing. But I would ask, everybody at the city to look and go, you got to invest in yourself, right? Anything that's successful is investing. When I first John told me about planning, I thought about it, and I would agree. I would say 2 planners, right? You probably need a seasoned veteran to help John, right? Because there's a lot of stuff. And then somebody else, younger. And you can, and when I say invest, right, it doesn't mean develop all over the city right away, but we're the hole in the donut, right? And you have to be open-minded to realize that you have a big open canvas, right? And do you want to be Picasso or do you want to be scribbling, And so if you don't have enough staff to do that, and it just seems like everything is reactionary, right? And so I don't want to see a city spend any more money, right? I'm a taxpayer too. But I guess just ask if you would, think about that, because I don't think, tomorrow, all of a sudden, no developers are going to be coming in, right? There's industrial, there's residential. I'm going to just tell you from my residential side, I have a lot of residents, a lot of people that have no idea on the guidance plan, areas that, their neighbors don't want development and smaller lots, and I try to explain, well, he really doesn't work in, your 10 acres because you got everybody else in 10 acres, right? And I'm not, it's not my job to do that, but I do know the interest is not going to decrease, and so I would say if the city was about full, that'd be a different story. But I think you're just at the beginning. You can agree or not agree. I try to think that I put a little extra in my projects that some other developers don't. But, my family's been in the city a long time too, and I think, maybe it's not the same direction as everybody up here, but I do have a care and a concern, and I think it's really an opportunity to not look at today, but look at 20, 30, 50 years from now, what Dayton could be, and hopefully it's a well thought out community, and if that means there's a moratorium to get staff and to help, if it's consultants, I'm not even sure the expert on that. It's probably a combination of all, but I would just ask you to invest in the city.
Thank you.
Eric Seppelt, 11534 Brayburn Trail. Since I'm here anyways, I'll just comment. I think I kind of echo everything that everyone's saying. I don't know what the right solution is here, but it definitely seems like staff is doing the best job that they can with what they're being dealt, and they're not being dealt maybe enough. And if a pause is needed, then a pause is needed. I moved into Dayton not for things to be rushed along or just struggle to kind of meet the expectations that even staff has for themselves. So whatever the solution is, more staff and expediting that or putting a moratorium on, I think whatever, again, is in the best interest of the city and how we develop and how we plan it is what myself as a resident moving into Dayton 5 years ago would want and still wants. So that would just be my kind of echoing of that statement by what Mr. Dean said and what some of you have said, and clearly what the issue seems to be. I appreciate all the work that staff has helped me with in the situation I'm in right now, and I appreciate the time that they commit to that, but I understand they have work to do, and more staff will help with helping more residents. So thank you.
Thank you. With that, I'm going to close the public hearing at 9:24. Continue our deliberation. I guess where my head was at initially on this, and just hear me out, John, is we got comp plan coming up, and that's going to take a lot of your time as well. And if we don't have, and I know hiring in this market is not easy, is it better to push this moratorium towards when that comp plan is out and needs more of your time, assuming we don't have staff? That's where my head's at. Delay the moratorium, but put it on so that we can address the comp plan and the requirements of staff at that time. I guess, or do we put the moratorium on and then put it on again? I don't know.
So try to answer your question, Peter. It's hard to predict because the bulk of the work for the comp plan is going to come the second half of 2027.
Okay.
I have no idea what that's going to look like. If in 2027, if we're going to be as busy as we are in 2026, we tend to kind of have ebb and flows every year. And this one we're high.
Yep.
Might not be the same next year. So
It could be twice as hot too, we just don't know what's
Yeah.
going on in the market.
The need is now, otherwise we wouldn't be, reviewing this request.
I just wanted to make sure we were addressing that concern of yourself and your time.
I've spoken with a few different developers, and none of them are real excited about this. I spoke with one smaller developer who said that, this is kind of the critical time to receive plat review because they're going to go out for bids in early winter, and that's when they get the best bid numbers for 2027 construction. If they can't get preliminary plat approval in the fall, they can't build in 2027. So a 6-month moratorium affects them for the whole year. If the moratorium were pushed out, say December or something, that probably has the least effect on developers. And I don't know if Tom would agree with that or if there's a magic date to that, but it's probably not now.
It is not now, right? Because you're setting everything up. I mean, you start something now, you're not getting approved to the end of the year. You're end of January, now you're into the heat of it, and all the developers have gotten to work. And especially if you go from 6 to a year, then you might as well just forget anything in 27.
Let's not do that.
Let's go back to the slide where it showed the impact of projects.
I would like to say something here, that the whole point of the moratorium is to is to back off your workload. If you set it up so that the work still comes in, you've accomplished nothing. So
You're talking the work before August 1st.
Yeah, no, what I mean is, let's say we do push it off until the applications are at a trough. What have you accomplished? Nothing.
Yeah.
So
So these 4 green projects are going to come in probably within the next month or so, and that's going to consume our time for the next 3 to 4 months. If we adopted a moratorium starting August 1st, we're not going to feel the effects of that until probably November, and then it expires at the end of January. So there's not a big impact to adopting a moratorium now.
On the projects that you're aware of?
Yes.
Yeah.
And this also, we do, so I think they just had interviews today to replace Hayden.
Yep.
And then you got another one coming next year, but really the impact was Hayden leaving. We can always take the 6-month and wipe it away, after 3 months, or whatever. Once we see that some new person's come in and they're doing well, then,
Guess where I'm at with this is, I would trust John and his recommendation that if this is what is needed to allow him and the consultants to spend the time necessary to make sure the products that are on our plate right now get the due attention, I would support it. Obviously, I'd prefer not to have moratoriums as well, because we want to be able to receive products when they come and when they need to be developed, and the timing of that is obviously very critical, but we need to give attention to the products that are on our plate, and if we can't do that, there's a problem there too, because we're going to miss things, and we're going to overtax John, and then John's not going to want to work here, and we don't want that, so.
I don't think the term is gonna, I think we are.
Yeah, we're overtaxing him, so I would take his recommendation that this is the right thing to do at this moment.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm still against it. I understand. I am fully supportive of John in the staffing situation, and I guess again, it just sends a message. And everyone keeps always saying that we wish government would operate more like a business. Well, government's operating like government right now. we can't solve a problem, so we're just gonna pause everything. Businesses don't do that. They figure it out. And I think that we need to have more of that attitude, that we gotta have the urgency to figure this out. This is not going away. This has been a continuous problem since my time on the planning commission, partially because there's been a lot of turnover in the planning department. So, I don't feel that confident that we're just gonna magically solve the problem with a moratorium either. People talk about different workload, but things just stack up differently and we have new issues. And so unless we solve our staffing issue, or just commit to using consultants in the short term, which is what you have to do if you don't do a moratorium. So, anyway.
I think we pretty much understand where everybody's sitting on this, and we could sit here and talk about it until midnight, and I don't think it's going to change anything. I'd make the motion that we adopt the 6-month moratorium, as John proposed.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second to adopt the moratorium.
If I could, I want to be clear that Dayton Creek Edition is asking for exclusion from the moratorium.
That's south of the interstate.
Yes, so we'll call it Southwest Dayton, or south and west of
Is that the
I-94.
project that Ken Streeter's involved with, or is
Yes.
it? Okay.
Yep.
Is that, if you were just to guess, is that going to be a significant amount of work?
I have no idea when they're going to propose anything, so I mean.
Exactly,
this-
that's
this
why part of me
is-
doesn't, that's the whole crapshoot that everyone's doing a moratorium and we don't even know what's gonna happen.
So is it your recommendation that we would exclude them from the moratorium? If that's so,
I will
I'll
strongly
amend my
recommend we do that, given that, is there an eminent domain action still going on with that property
Yes.
owner? I would make a strong recommendation we exclude them from the moratorium. A very strong recommendation. I'd exclude everybody, Tom.
But then if we exclude them all, then what are we doing the moratorium for?
Well, if you're trying to negotiate a property that you're in litigation with, and they probably won't even come up with a plan.
So one of the, and Darren can probably speak more to this than I can, so one of the issues that I think a lot of, I'm going to say the commercial industrial developers and property owners have a problem with this or objection to it is the moratorium scares off developers and users.
They can't even market it to tenants.
Right.
Yeah, they can't even, and most industrial users, that's the whole issue, is they're not gonna break ground until they secure a tenant, and we just don't know when that's gonna happen. Could be tomorrow, could be 9 months.
So the issue that we're looking at here is the abundance or the overloaded work of city staff.
Correct.
And what we need to address is the overloading work of city staff. We can't fix every developer's problem. If they have issues that they're dealing with, we can't deal with
This isn't the
that.
developer's problem, this is the city's problem with staffing. And one solution is consultants, right? This is not a developer problem. The developers just don't like the moratorium.
So right now we have a motion and a second on the.
And I'll amend the motion to exclude the project that John talked about if Paul is okay with seconding the amendment to the motion.
So I would define that as southwest of I-94.
There you go. What he said.
Do we have a second on the amendment?
He's
Well, I struggle with that because, I mean, you know something more about what they're doing there, but then I don't know Tom's situation, right? And he's saying, well, maybe I should be excluded too, right? So now we're just picking and choosing developers for what?
Right. And you don't know if DDL misses the August 1st deadline, but they're ready to go September. I mean, we're shooting ourselves in the foot with commercial development. I understand residential plats can be a lot of work, particularly when they're really big. But some of these commercial ones, it's like, I just don't want to shoot ourselves in the foot.
All right, so
I mean, I guess question for mayor is, I mean, has the council talked about staffing and support, and is there budget to provide more consulting time
No.
to offload it?
I mean, we had another planner in the mix for next year, and then Hayden left, so we had to scramble to do something there. But as John said, consultants eat up
whatever Hayden was doing in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
And I'd rather not have consultants do a lot of that work.
And I guess I'll speak on why I'm differing. On this one, I'm leaning more towards where Darren is. In the last one, I was leaning, I believe the last one I was leaning for the moratorium, so we as commission could help staff in that aspect. I don't know that we have the expertise or the bandwidth to help staff on this one as much. And so I'm leaning more towards Darren, with Darren of we need to push for consultants on this. I'm okay with the moratorium, but if staff needs help, we need to get them there. The last one, I believe, the issue behind it, I believe we could have helped solve pretty quickly in a work session. So that's where my head's at. So we had a motion to amend it. Is that gonna die? I think that dies. So
For lack of second, it will.
yeah, so now we're back to the original motion and a second on a moratorium for the entirety. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. I'm making it easy on you too.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-1.
Just add a couple of notes. For both of these moratoriums, because they involved residential properties, there is a second, or I should say the city council is required to hold a public hearing as well, so that will be on July 28th.
All right. Item 10E, ooh, we're ahead
Good
of
stuff.
schedule.
Let's keep it that way.
Last month's
We can do this.
commission, okay, so back up again, what are we doing? This is public hearing for an ordinance amendment related to the minimum garage size. Last month, as the commission may recall, we had an ordinance amendment to try to fix a conflict in the code related to the minimum garage size for homes with a basement versus homes that did not have a basement. That is fixed. But the commission had also directed staff to do some research or prepare an ordinance amendment just related to the minimum garage size period. So that was advertised as a public hearing, and then I ran out of time and was not able to draft an ordinance amendment, so I'm requesting that this be tabled. But again, this was posted as a public hearing, so.
Do we have to open the public hearing and
Yes.
table it then?
All right, I will open the public hearing at 9:39.
I'll make a motion to table the public hearing
Second.
and the item.
Yeah, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to table the item and the public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes 5-0 to table.
Thank you. Okay. Notices and announcements. We have a city app. I am aware that all the commissioners have this on your phone, so this is the best way to find out what is going on in the city. I do not have a slide on, no, maybe I do have. I'll wait on that. No, well, why not? Already interrupted myself. We do have, the city staff is pushing, I can't remember what it's called, but you can register to receive a text message or a call for immediate announcements. So, for example, this week Hennepin County is testing tornado sirens. If you're around Dayton, you may have heard it go off 2, 3, 4 times today.
I heard it in Maple Grove last week, and they're doing the same thing, I'm sure.
Okay. It's throughout the summer, so like today is Dayton's turn.
I didn't hear it today at all.
I didn't hear it either.
Mine didn't go off.
Okay.
No.
And it literally rattles the windows, so if it had gone off, I'd heard it.
But you can register to receive text messages. So if the tornado siren testing is only one example, there could be other things like some other public emergency. Play is every Tuesday at the Activities Center, Dice and Dominoes, the second and fourth Wednesday. Embedded Social Worker is available on the third Wednesday of the month. Dayton Car Show, 6 weekends throughout the summer. The next one is tomorrow night. This is at Elsie Stevens.
I'll be there.
All right.
Every one so far.
Temporary road closure for 113th Avenue. This is anticipated to be the week of July 20th through August 10th. So traffic going to Sundance will be detoured through Sundance Greens.
What is it that they're doing?
Reconstructing 113th. So rebuilding the road.
So we're rebuilding a road that we're going to reroute?
Yeah, the rerouted portion will not be reconstructed.
Why are we rebuilding a road that we're going to reroute?
The part that will be rerouted will not be reconstructed. So the part that will remain will be reconstructed. So that last segment between Fernbrook and Glacier, that will be left over.
There you go.
That makes sense.
All the curves, all the streets.
I was wondering why they were doing all the markings all over the roads.
Adopt a park. There's several parks available for individuals to adopt, and the expectation is to pick up a litter once a month. Flower pots in Old Town. We still have, I don't remember how many available, many more than I'd like to have. So I want to say half or more are still available. Half is 4. So these are $125 a year that run seasonally from spring until next spring. Sponsored dog treat station is a $780 donation to the city. And here's outdoor sirens. So in doing a little bit of Googling, this is a map of siren coverage. This is an old map in 2013. I'm sure it's changed in Dayton. There's not a lot of coverage, according to here. But again...
so the blue is the covered areas, or the red is the
red is.
Yeah.
It's got to be different now.
I know that we have more sirens than what's shown on this map. But again, Hennepin County is testing, I know this week, so you will hear the sirens go off multiple times. It doesn't mean that there's a tornado going, it's just testing. Swap It event, next Swap It event will be Thursday, July 16th, and then again on August 15th. So this is specific to building materials in July and school supplies in August. And this is not, these are activities sponsored by Hennepin County. They don't occur in Dayton. We do have a new little library at the Activity Center if you'd like to donate any books. Park playground equipment, I've not noticed this in our city parks, but we do have a grant from Hennepin County where you can essentially borrow, whether it's basketball or some other ball, play with it at the park, and then we just ask that you put it back.
I know the one in Sundance gets used a lot.
Okay.
I see it.
The Giving Garden, so this is right outside of City Hall. If you have a vegetable garden in your yard and an excessive amount of vegetables, please consider donating them to City Hall. And then this is free to grab by anybody. Elevate Hennepin is looking for participants, so this is intended for small businesses as well as new small businesses that are starting out in Hennepin County. Does not necessarily have to be in Dayton, so they have several different programs. EDA continues to market land by the Old Village. This is a kind of a concept plan for a mixed-use development with a restaurant, commercial and residential, so we're still looking for a developer for this project.
FYI, that single-family home looks pretty close.
Very close. Voting information, early voting begins July 24th at City Hall. And then our latest numbers for permits, so we issued 22 single-family permits in the month of June. Months we have kind of up and down. I kind of use the summary that we issue about 20 home permits per month. Right now they're going to be more focused on DCM farms, as well as a little bit in Brayburn and Riverwalk. For next month, again, our next meeting will be Thursday, August 6th. The tentative agenda that I'm expecting will have the Sundance Greens 12th edition that was tabled tonight, Dayton Automotive, which is a auto repair shop off of Territorial. The city of Dayton will have a comprehensive plan amendment for sewer in southwest Dayton, as well as the Parkway neighborhood, which will be proposing an amendment to their preliminary plat. And then we'll have ordinance amendments, hopefully, on garages and signs.
What's the sign one?
It's related to developer signs.
All right.
It's a good looking building. Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting is adjourned.